The invitation to my sister Victoria's wedding sat unopened on my desk for 3 days. Its cream-colored envelope, embossed with gold leaf and sealed with the Hamilton family crest, seemed to mock me with its extravagance. I already knew what it said, or rather, what it didn't say. Miss Sophia Hamilton, your presence is not required. I'd overheard Victoria telling our mother exactly that at their weekly lunch meeting at the country club. A lunch I wasn't invited to, of course. After all, failures don't belong at the Hamilton family's preferred establishments. We can't have her there, Mother, Victoria had declared, her voice carrying across the terrace where I'd been secretly meeting with the club's manager about acquiring the property. She'll embarrass us in front of the Astors and the Vanderbilts. I mean, she works from a tiny office downtown. What would people think? If only they knew that tiny office was actually the entire top floor of Manhattan's most prestigious business tower, and that Hamilton Global Ventures, my company, had just been valued at $3.8 billion. But I'd kept that information carefully hidden, watching and waiting as my family continued to treat me like their greatest disappointment. Now, staring at the invitation I wasn't meant to receive, Victoria's assistant had sent it by mistake. Much to my sister's fury, I couldn't help but smile at the venue listed in elegant script, Windsor Estates. My latest acquisition. The phone on my desk buzzed. Ms. Hamilton? The Windsor Estates management team is here for the transition meeting. Send them in, Emma. The team filed in, 12 impeccably dressed hospitality executives, all unaware that their new owner was the black sheep of one of New York's oldest families. They'd been running the venue when I purchased it through a shell company last month, right after Victoria announced her engagement. Good morning, I smiled, noting how none of them recognized my name. Let's discuss the changes we'll be making, starting with the Harrison wedding next month. The Hamilton wedding, one of them corrected. Victoria Hamilton? It's our most prestigious booking this season. The family practically owns this city. Used to own this city, I thought, thinking of all the properties and businesses I'd quietly acquired over the past 5 years. The buildings my family thought they were renting? Mine. The investment firm handling their trust funds? Also mine. And now, their precious wedding venue. Right, of course, I said smoothly. Tell me everything. For the next hour, they detailed my sister's ridiculous demands: imported roses from Holland, crystal champagne flutes from France, a guest list that read like a who's who of old money Manhattan. The budget was astronomical, though Victoria had demanded a family discount based on the Hamilton name. If she only knew. My phone buzzed again, Victoria calling for the 5th time today. I'd been ignoring her calls since she'd tried to have the accidental invitation retracted. Excuse me, I told the management team. I should take this. They filed out as I picked up the phone. Hello, Victoria. Finally, she snapped. I've been calling all morning. About that invitation. The one telling me I'm not welcome at your wedding? Don't worry, I got the message. Loud and clear. It's not personal, Sophia, she sighed with practiced condescension. But this wedding is about maintaining certain standards. We can't have someone of your position mixing with our crowd. I glanced at the Forbes magazine on my desk, featuring my company's latest acquisition. The Hamilton family hadn't even noticed that their various businesses were slowly being bought out by unnamed holding companies. Of course, I said smoothly. Heaven forbid your failure of a sister embarrass you in front of the Astors. Exactly. She missed my sarcasm entirely. I'm having a small dinner next week for the wedding party at Windsor Estates. Just family and close friends. Obviously, you understand why you're not invited. Obviously. I looked out my office window at the sprawling grounds of Windsor Estates, visible in the distance. I wouldn't want to embarrass you at your perfect venue. It is perfect, isn't it? She preened. The most exclusive event space in the city. Even Mother was impressed that I managed to book it. They usually have a 3-year waiting list, but the Hamilton name opens doors. I smiled, thinking of exactly why she'd gotten that booking so easily. Yes, it certainly does. Anyway, she continued, I just wanted to make sure you received the correction to the invitation situation. Can't have you showing up where you don't belong. Don't worry, Victoria. I'll be exactly where I belong on your wedding day. She hung up, no doubt already focused on some other detail of her perfect wedding. She had no idea that her failure sister had been orchestrating everything from the shadows. Emma appeared in the doorway. The management team is ready to continue, Ms. Hamilton. And your mother is in the lobby. My mother? This was unexpected. Margaret Hamilton hadn't deigned to visit my office in the 5 years since I'd left the family business to start my own company. She seems agitated. Of course she was. Mother was always agitated when anything threatened to disturb her perfectly ordered world of social hierarchies and family traditions. Send her up, I said, straightening the Forbes magazine so my mother wouldn't notice it. And hold the management team for 15 minutes. Margaret Hamilton swept into my office like a perfectly coiffed hurricane, designer heels clicking on the marble floor. She stopped short at the view from my windows. This is your office? She looked around at the sophisticated decor, so different from the shabby startup space she'd last visited. But Victoria said you worked in some tiny rental. Hello to you too, Mother. I gestured to a chair. What brings you to the part of town where failures work? She flinched at my words but sat down, her Hermes bag perched perfectly on her lap. This invitation situation, it's becoming awkward. Awkward for whom? The daughter being banned from her sister's wedding, or the family doing the banning? Don't be dramatic, Sophia. She waved her hand dismissively. Victoria is just trying to maintain certain standards. You understand, of course. After you left the family business to play entrepreneur. Play entrepreneur? I raised an eyebrow. Is that what you think I've been doing for 5 years? Well, what else would you call it? Working from some office instead of taking your rightful place at Hamilton Industries? She sniffed. Though I must say, this space is surprisingly nice. How can you afford it? If she only knew that I owned the entire building. That her precious Hamilton Industries was now secretly a subsidiary of my company. That her daughter's perfect wedding venue belonged to the child she'd written off as a failure. I manage, I said simply. Now, about Victoria's wedding. Yes, well, we think it's best if you don't attend. The Astors will be there, and the Vanderbilts, and really, darling, what would you even talk about with people of that caliber? I thought about my recent yacht party with the actual Astor heirs, where we'd discussed my company's latest tech innovations. But Mother didn't need to know about that. Not yet. Don't worry, I smiled. I won't do anything to disturb Victoria's perfect day at Windsor Estates. She stood, apparently satisfied that she'd handled the situation. Good. Though I don't know why you're smiling about it. Being banned from your own sister's wedding should be mortifying. Oh, Mother, I said softly, you have no idea what should be mortifying. As she clicked her way out of my office, I turned back to the window, watching the afternoon sun glint off Windsor Estates' famous glass dome. In 1 week, at Victoria's small dinner, everyone would learn exactly who owned their precious venue. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting everything. 1 week later, I stood in the private dining room of Windsor Estates, watching the staff prepare for Victoria's wedding party dinner. Crystal champagne flutes caught the light from the antique chandeliers I'd recently had restored to their original 19th century glory. The Hamilton family crest, which Victoria had demanded be prominently displayed, hung above the marble fireplace. Next to it, I'd instructed the staff to hang a smaller, more modern logo, the subtle emblem of my company, Hamilton Global Ventures. Everything is prepared according to your specifications, Ms. Hamilton, James, the venue manager, reported, though I must say, your sister's list of demands was quite extensive. I'm sure it was. I adjusted a place card, moving Victoria from the head of the table to a less prominent position. And the special announcement? Ready for your signal. He hesitated. Are you certain about the timing? I thought about all the family dinners where I'd been seated in the kitchen, the holiday parties where Victoria had introduced me as our sister who's going through a phase, the countless times I'd been told I was embarrassing the Hamilton name. Absolutely certain. The guests began arriving at 7. A parade of old money and older prejudices. Victoria swept in wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than what she thought I made in a month. Marcus, her hedge fund manager fiancé, trailing in her wake. This room is acceptable, she announced to no one in particular, though the flowers should have been roses. Not lilies. And what is that tacky modern logo doing next to our family crest? I watched from the shadows as our parents arrived, father immediately gravitating toward Marcus to discuss the stock market. If only they knew that Hamilton Global Ventures owned controlling interest in most of their investment portfolios. Darling, mother air-kissed Victoria's cheeks. Everything looks perfect. Though I heard the most disturbing rumor today. Someone said Windsor Estates had been sold? Victoria waved her hand dismissively. Impossible. The Windsor family would never sell. Besides, I spoke with the manager last week about some changes I want for the wedding. He assured me everything would be exactly as I demanded. Of course he did, I murmured, stepping into the light. That's what good staff does. The room fell silent. Victoria's perfect smile cracked slightly. Sophia, what are you doing here? This dinner is for important people only? I finished for her. Don't worry, I'm right where I belong. Mother stepped forward, lips pursed. Sophia, really, we discussed this. This evening is about standards, about maintaining certain appearances? I smiled. Yes, let's talk about appearances. James appeared at my side right on cue. Excuse me, everyone, before dinner begins, I have an announcement. He cleared his throat. Please join me in welcoming the new owner of Windsor Estates. Victoria laughed, the sound brittle. Owner? But that's impossible. Unless, she turned to Marcus. Darling, did you buy it for me as a wedding gift? Actually, I said quietly, he didn't. The room went perfectly still, every champagne glass frozen midair. Please welcome, James continued, Miss Sophia Hamilton, CEO of Hamilton Global Ventures and the new owner of Windsor Estates. The crash of Victoria's champagne flute shattering on the marble floor echoed through the silence. This is a joke, she whispered. It has to be. Like the joke of uninviting me to your wedding? I moved to the head of the table, my table now. Or the joke of telling everyone I work from a tiny rental office? Father found his voice first. Hamilton Global Ventures? But that's the company that's been buying up half of Manhattan. The one that acquired Sterling Financial last month. The very same, I confirmed, though that was just a small acquisition. Would you like to know what else I own? Mother sank into a chair, her perfect posture finally failing. Sophia, what have you done? What have I done? I laughed softly. I built an empire while you were all too busy looking down on me to notice. That tiny office Victoria loves to mock? It's the entire top floor of the Hamilton Tower, which I bought last year. By the way, those investment accounts you're so proud of? Managed by my company. This venue you thought was so exclusive? Mine. Victoria's face had gone from shocked to calculating. Well, this is wonderful news. Of course you must attend the wedding now. In fact, we should. Let me stop you right there. I held up a hand. I'm not interested in suddenly being worthy of your attention now that you know I'm successful. This dinner isn't about reconciliation, it's about revelation. I nodded to James, who began distributing folders to each guest. What's this? Marcus asked, opening his folder and going pale. Documentation, I said simply, of every time you and Victoria used company funds for personal expenses, every questionable transaction you've hidden from the SEC. Every instance of tax evasion your precious hedge fund has committed. He dropped the folder like it was on fire. You can't prove. I can prove everything. Hamilton Global Ventures owns 51% of your fund now. We've had access to all your records for months. Victoria stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. You would destroy your own sister's fiancé? You stopped treating me like a sister long ago, I reminded her. Besides, I'm just maintaining certain standards. Isn't that what this family is all about? Mother was frantically flipping through her folder. These properties, these businesses. All mine, I confirmed. Every building you thought you were renting, every company you thought was independently owned. I've spent 5 years building something extraordinary while you were all too busy mocking my little startup to notice. Father cleared his throat. Now, Sophia, surely we can discuss this like family. Family? I cut him off. Was it family when you told the board I was too irresponsible to handle the business? When you gave Victoria my shares because she understood our world better? I gestured to the room around us. This is my world now. I understand it perfectly. The wedding, Victoria whispered. All the plans. We'll proceed exactly as scheduled, I assured her, with one small change. I produced a new seating chart. I'll be sitting at the head table, next to the Astors, who, by the way, are major investors in my company. We had the most fascinating discussion about it on my yacht last month. Mother's hands were shaking. Your yacht? The one Victoria said I couldn't possibly afford to rent, let alone own? Yes, that one, though I have 3 now. Success does compound, doesn't it? The room was silent except for the sound of papers rustling as my family continued to discover just how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered them. As for the venue, I continued, don't worry about that family discount you demanded, Victoria. Consider it my wedding gift, though the terms have changed slightly. I produced a new contract. The venue is yours for the wedding, but afterward, it's being converted into the headquarters of my charitable foundation. We'll be helping other entrepreneurs who've been told they're not good enough. Marcus was still staring at his folder. The SEC will be very interested in your records. I agreed, unless, of course, you'd like to negotiate. I'm willing to bury the evidence, for a price. Name it, he said quickly. Your resignation, effective immediately, and a public statement about why you're stepping down. I smiled. Something about maintaining certain standards. Victoria finally found her voice again. You would ruin us? Your own family? No, Victoria, you ruined yourselves. I'm just showing you exactly who you've been looking down on all these years. I stood, smoothing my designer dress, one that cost more than her entire wedding. Now, shall we have dinner? I believe these are your seats. I pointed to the far end of the table, the less important end, as you always say. The next 2 hours were deliciously uncomfortable. My family picked at their food while I detailed exactly how I'd built my empire under their noses. Every dismissive comment they'd made, every time they'd excluded me from family events, every instance of mockery, I'd used it all as fuel. The wedding will proceed as planned, I announced as dessert was served. Consider it my gift to you, Victoria. One last chance to be the center of attention before your fiancé's scandal breaks. You wouldn't, she whispered. Like you wouldn't ban your sister from your wedding? I raised an eyebrow. We all make choices, Victoria. You chose to treat me like I was beneath you. I chose to prove you spectacularly wrong. As the shell-shocked family filed out later that evening, Mother turned back one last time. Was any of this necessary? Couldn't you have just told us about your success? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Or would you have dismissed it as another example of me playing entrepreneur? She had no answer. The wedding, when it happened 3 weeks later, was everything Victoria had dreamed of. Perfect flowers, perfect music, perfect setting, but the whispers followed her down the aisle. Whispers about her fiancé's hasty resignation, about the venue's mysterious new owner, about the Hamilton family's changing fortunes. I sat in my rightful place at the head table, watching my sister's perfect day unfold in my perfect venue. The Astors did attend, though they spent most of their time discussing business opportunities with me. The Vanderbilts were there too, eager to talk about possible collaborations with Hamilton Global Ventures. Victoria's toast to her new husband was brief, her hands shaking slightly as she remembered what would happen once their honeymoon ended. Marcus couldn't meet anyone's eyes, knowing his career was over. But my favorite moment came when the venue manager raised his glass for a final announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, he called out, please join me in thanking our gracious host, the owner of Windsor Estates and CEO of Hamilton Global Ventures, Ms. Sophia Hamilton. The silence that fell over the reception was perfect. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong, sometimes it's about letting them discover exactly how wrong they've been all along. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't just owning the venue, it's owning everything they thought you couldn't have. Victoria and Marcus left for their honeymoon the next day, flying commercial instead of private as planned. Their accounts had been frozen pending the SEC investigation. Mother and father retreated to their summer home, only to discover I owned that too. And me? I had an empire to run. Success, after all, is the best revenge. But I did send Victoria one final wedding gift, a framed copy of the invitation she'd tried to retract, mounted next to the deed to Windsor Estates. The note attached read simply, some failures exceed all expectations. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in the revenge itself, it's in watching people realize exactly who they've been underestimating all along. The end.
I stood in front of the full-length mirror, still wearing my wedding dress, and watched mascara-stained tears roll down my cheeks. 3 hours ago, I was the happiest woman alive. Now I felt like I was drowning in white tulle and broken promises. My name is Sophia, and this was supposed to be the most romantic night of my life. Instead, I'm locked in the bathroom of our honeymoon suite, trying to process the words my new husband just spoke. I'm in love with your sister. The words keep echoing in my head, each repetition feeling like a fresh slap across my face. Jeremy had been drinking. Not enough to be drunk, just enough to loosen his tongue. We'd barely made it through the door of our suite when he dropped this bomb. Sophia? Jeremy's voice came through the door, accompanied by soft knocking. Baby, please come out. We need to talk about this. How long? I managed to choke out, loud enough for him to hear. A pause. What? How long have you been in love with Shiloh? Another pause, longer this time. Since before the engagement. The sob that escaped my throat didn't sound human. I thought about Shiloh's face at the wedding, how she'd hugged me so tightly before the ceremony, telling me how happy she was for me. Had she known? Have you been sleeping with her? No. God, no, Sophia. I would never. But you're in love with her? I cut him off, my voice stronger now. Anger was beginning to replace the shock. I tried to fight it. I thought getting married would help me forget about her. I yanked the door open so hard it slammed against the wall. Jeremy stumbled back, his bow tie hanging loose around his neck, his wedding suit wrinkled. You thought getting married would help you forget about my sister? The words came out as a hiss. You used me as therapy? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Jeremy? Please enlighten me about how marrying me was supposed to cure your feelings for my little sister. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Sophia, please. We can work through this. We can get counseling. I laughed, and it sounded hollow even to my own ears. Counseling? You just told me you've been in love with my sister since before you proposed to me. There's nothing to work through. My hands were steady as I reached up to remove my veil. The diamond ring on my finger caught the light, and suddenly I couldn't bear to look at it. I pulled it off and placed it on the marble counter. Sophia. I'm calling Mara to pick me up, I said, reaching for my phone. And tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. Don't do this, Jeremy pleaded. Think about what people will say. A divorce after one day? Oh, now you care about what people will say? I spun around to face him. Did you care about what people would say when you walked me down the aisle, knowing you were in love with my sister? His face crumpled. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. And you hurt Shiloh too, whether you realize it or not. I typed out a quick message to Mara, my hands still surprisingly steady. You've ruined everything. Not just our marriage, but my relationship with my sister. Our family's friendships. We can fix this. No, we can't. I grabbed my overnight bag, thankful I hadn't unpacked yet. But I can fix myself. And I will. I changed out of my wedding dress in the bathroom, putting on jeans and a sweater. As I folded the dress into its garment bag, I caught my reflection again. My makeup was ruined, but my eyes were clear now. I'll have my lawyer contact you, I said, walking past Jeremy toward the door. Don't try to contact me or Shiloh. Sophia, please don't go. I paused at the door, my hand on the handle. You know what the worst part is? I actually thought I was the lucky one. I thought I had found true love while Shiloh was still searching. Turns out I was just a placeholder. Before he could respond, I walked out, closing the door softly behind me. In the elevator, I pulled out the divorce papers I had drawn up last week, a precaution my intuition had insisted upon, even as I'd told myself I was being paranoid. When I returned to the room an hour later to leave them on the bed beside his sleeping form, I felt nothing but a cold determination. Tomorrow, the real work would begin, the work of rebuilding myself from the ground up. But tonight, as I watched Jeremy's chest rise and fall in peaceful sleep, I made myself a promise. This would be the last time anyone ever made me feel this small. 3 months after my one-day marriage, I sat across from Mara at our favorite coffee shop, stirring my untouched latte. The divorce was final. Money talks, and I'd paid extra to expedite everything. You need to eat something, Mara said, pushing a croissant toward me. You've lost too much weight. I'm fine. I took a small bite to appease her. Besides, I'm too busy to worry about food. The expansion plans can wait 5 minutes while you have breakfast with your best friend. Mara reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Talk to me, Sophia. Really talk to me. I set down my spoon. I saw Shiloh yesterday, at the grocery store. Oh God, what happened? Nothing. She saw me, I saw her, and we both pretended we didn't exist. I laughed bitterly. Funny how someone can go from being your closest confidant to a stranger in the produce aisle. Have you told your parents about the real reason for the divorce? I shook my head. What's the point? They're already devastated enough. Besides, it would only make things worse for everyone. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and I looked up reflexively. My heart skipped a beat when I saw who had walked in. Is that Drew? Mara whispered, following my gaze. Drew from college? It was indeed Drew, looking even better than he had in our university days. He caught my eye and did a double take, then broke into a warm smile. Sophia? He walked over to our table. I thought that was you. Drew, hi. I stood up, accepting his quick hug. It's been what, 5 years? At least. He glanced at the empty chair at our table. Mind if I join you? Mara kicked me under the table. Actually, I was just leaving. Early meeting. She gathered her things with suspicious speed. Drew, it was great seeing you again. After Mara left, Drew took her seat. I heard about the divorce, I'm sorry. News travels fast, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Small business community. He shrugged. I've been meaning to reach out, actually. I heard you're expanding your consulting firm? Trying to. The market's tough right now. I might have an opportunity for you. He pulled out his business card. My company's looking for a strategic partner in digital transformation. Would you be interested in pitching? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Trisha, my mentor. Need to see you ASAP. Important opportunity. I'd love to hear more, I told Drew, tucking his card into my wallet. But I have to run. Meeting with my mentor. Have dinner with me tonight, he said. We can discuss business and catch up properly. I hesitated only briefly. Okay, text me the details. 20 minutes later, I walked into Trisha's office. She was on the phone but waved me in. Perfect timing, she said after hanging up. You'll never guess who just called me about you. Who? Owen Johnson, Jeremy's business partner. My stomach clenched. What did he want? To hire you. Apparently, their firm is struggling with some major digital infrastructure issues. They need someone who understands both technology and business strategy. No. I stood up. Absolutely not. Sophia, wait. Trisha held up her hand. I know your history with Jeremy, but this could be huge for your firm. Owen specifically requested you because of your reputation. My reputation? I laughed. You mean the woman who couldn't keep her husband for 24 hours? No, Trisha said firmly. The woman who turned a small consulting practice into one of the most respected firms in the city in less than 3 years. The woman who just won the Innovation in Business Award. I sank back into my chair. I can't work with Jeremy. You wouldn't have to. Owen would be your point of contact. She leaned forward. Sometimes the best revenge is success, Sophia. And sometimes opportunity comes disguised as something we want to run from. My phone buzzed again. A text from Drew with restaurant details for tonight. I need to think about it, I told Trisha. Of course. She smiled knowingly. But don't think too long. Opportunities like this don't come around often. As I left her office, another text came through, this one from an unknown number. It was Shiloh. We need to talk, please. I deleted the message without responding and pulled out Drew's business card instead. Maybe Trisha was right. Maybe the best revenge wasn't plotting and scheming, but simply becoming so successful that those who hurt you become irrelevant. I typed out a quick response to Drew, confirming dinner. Whatever Owen's offer was, I had a feeling Drew's might be better, both professionally and personally. And right now, better was exactly what I needed. 6 months later, I sat in my newly expanded office watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. The merger with Drew's company had transformed both our businesses and our relationship. My phone buzzed with his message. Still on for dinner? Have big news. Before I could reply, Kylie, my new business partner, burst into my office. "Sophia, you need to see this." She thrust her tablet at me. On the screen was a local business news article. Tech firm faces investigation amid financial irregularities. The photo showed Jeremy and Owen leaving their office building, faces grim. "Karma's a beautiful thing," Kylie said, perching on my desk. "I had nothing to do with this," I replied, scanning the article. "No one said you did, but you have to admit the timing is perfect. Your company's soaring while theirs is crashing." My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Mara. "You're not going to believe what I just heard," she said when I answered. "Shiloh lost her job at the magazine. Apparently she's been showing up late, missing deadlines." "That's not my problem," I said, but something in my chest tightened. "There's more. She and Jeremy have been fighting publicly. Last week at Riverside Restaurant, they caused such a scene that management had to ask them to leave." I ended the call quickly, not wanting to hear more. Success was supposed to make me feel better, not worse. My sister's downfall shouldn't matter to me anymore. "Sophia?" Drew appeared in my doorway, looking sharp in his business suit. "Ready for dinner?" During dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, Drew couldn't contain his excitement. "The Silicon Valley deal is happening. They want both our companies involved in the expansion." "That's incredible," I said, reaching for his hand across the table. "When do they want to start?" "That's the thing. They want us in California next week for preliminary meetings." He squeezed my hand. "I was thinking maybe we could extend the trip, make it personal as well as professional." Before I could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. I turned to see Owen arguing with the maitre d'. "I need to speak with Sophia," Owen was saying, his voice carrying across the restaurant. "It's urgent." Drew started to stand, but I placed a hand on his arm. "I'll handle this." I approached Owen, who looked disheveled. Nothing like the polished businessman I remembered. "Whatever this is, it can wait until business hours." "Jeremy's going to lose everything," Owen said, his voice desperate. "The investigation. We need your help, Sophia. Your expertise could save the company." "My expertise?" I laughed coldly. "The same expertise Jeremy dismissed when we were married? When he said my success was just luck?" "People make mistakes. He knows that now." "Yes, they do. And now he's making more of them." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Tell Jeremy that karma doesn't need my help. It's doing just fine on its own." As I turned to walk away, Owen grabbed my arm. "Shiloh's pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. I pulled my arm free, aware of Drew watching from our table. "Congratulations to them both," I said, my voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. "Now leave before I call security." Back at the table, Drew didn't ask questions. He just poured more wine and said, "About that California trip?" "Yes," I said, surprising both of us. "Let's extend it. I think I need a change of scenery." Later that night in my apartment, I found myself looking at old photos of Shiloh and me as kids. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, Jeremy this time. "Please help us, for Shiloh's sake." I blocked the number and opened my laptop instead. The business news was full of speculation about Jeremy and Owen's company. According to inside sources, the investigation was just the tip of the iceberg. My phone rang again. Kylie this time. "Sophia, you won't believe who just reached out to our HR department about a job. Owen's wife. She says she has dirt on both Owen and Jeremy that could help us land their biggest clients." I closed my eyes, thinking about the baby Shiloh was carrying, my niece or nephew. Then I thought about the night Jeremy confessed his love for her, about all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep afterward. "Tell HR to set up the interview," I said finally. "But make it clear, we're not interested in dirt. We win clients through excellence, not exploitation." After hanging up, I packed my bag for California. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building yourself up so high they can't reach you anymore. And right now, with Drew by my side and my business thriving, I was soaring. The California sun streamed through the conference room windows as I wrapped up my presentation. The Silicon Valley executives were nodding, clearly impressed. Drew squeezed my hand under the table as the CEO stood up. Outstanding, Sophia. We'd like to move forward immediately. Back in our hotel room, Drew popped champagne while I kicked off my heels. You were amazing in there, he said, handing me a glass. My phone buzzed. Kylie's name flashing on the screen. Sophia, turn on the business news. Now. Drew grabbed the remote and suddenly Jeremy's face filled the screen. He looked haggard, standing outside his office building, surrounded by reporters. Allegations of fraud and embezzlement. Mr. Johnson has been taken into custody, and sources say more arrests are pending. Holy shit, Drew whispered. My phone exploded with notifications. Mara, are you watching this? Trisha, call me ASAP. And then a text from my mother. Shiloh's in the hospital. Please come home. I have to go back, I told Drew, already packing my suitcase. I'll come with you. No, stay. Finish the deal. I kissed him quickly. I'll handle this. 6 hours later, I walked into the hospital waiting room. My mother rushed to hug me, her face tear-stained. She's asking for you. What happened? The stress. The baby. She couldn't finish the sentence. I found Shiloh in a private room, curled on her side, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. I lost the baby, she whispered. I stood frozen in the doorway, all my carefully constructed walls crumbling. I'm sorry. Jeremy's being arrested tomorrow. She wiped her eyes. He knew what Owen was doing. He helped cover it up. Why are you telling me this? Because I need my sister back. Her voice broke. I know we can never go back to how things were, but I miss you so much it hurts. I sat on the edge of her bed, maintaining distance. You broke my heart, Shiloh. Both of you did. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. She reached for my hand. But you're the strong one. You always have been. I need your strength now. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Kylie again. Owen's wife just left the interview. Sophia, they were running a Ponzi scheme. Jeremy and Owen were using client funds to cover personal debts. It's worse than anyone thought. I ended the call and looked at my sister. Did you know? She shook her head. I suspected something was wrong, but Jeremy wouldn't tell me anything. He just kept getting more paranoid, more controlling. A nurse appeared with discharge papers. Shiloh's hands shook as she tried to sign them. Where are you going to go? I asked. Mom and Dad's, I guess. I can't go home. Reporters are everywhere. I heard Trisha's voice in my head. Sometimes the best revenge is rising above. I took a deep breath. Come stay with me. Shiloh's head snapped up. What? Not forever, just until you figure things out. I took the papers from her trembling hands and signed where indicated. But we need to be clear, this doesn't fix everything. I know. Back at my apartment, I made up the guest room while Shiloh showered. My phone rang. Drew. The deal's done, he said. How are you holding up? I don't know. I sank onto my couch. Drew, I let Shiloh stay with me. A pause. Are you sure that's wise? No, but she's still my sister. And that's why I love you, he said softly. It was the first time he'd said those words. Before I could respond, breaking news alerts flooded my phone. Jeremy had been arrested trying to flee the country. The company was declaring bankruptcy. Thousands of clients' savings were gone. Shiloh emerged from the guest room wearing borrowed pajamas. I saw the news, she said quietly. I keep thinking about what you said at the wedding, about being the lucky one. I was so stupid, Sophia. I threw away the best sister in the world for a man who turned out to be a criminal. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were gone. She was just my little sister again. Lost and broken. We can't go back, I said finally. But maybe we can go forward. My phone buzzed with another message from Drew. Coming home tomorrow. We'll figure this out together. Looking at my sister's tear-stained face, I realized something important. True revenge isn't about watching your enemies fall. It's about being strong enough to stay standing when they do. And sometimes it's about being strong enough to help others stand back up, even when they've hurt you. 2 weeks after Shiloh moved in, I stood in my kitchen watching her attempt to make breakfast. The smell of burning toast filled the air. "I'm sorry," she said, dumping another blackened slice into the trash. "I never had to cook before." "That's because you always had someone doing everything for you," I replied, then immediately regretted my tone when I saw her face fall. The doorbell rang, saving us from the awkward moment. It was Drew, carrying coffee and proper breakfast from our favorite cafe. "My hero," I said, kissing him hello. "I figured you two could use a real breakfast," he said, setting down the bags. "Especially today." Today, Jeremy's arraignment. Shiloh's hands trembled as she reached for a coffee cup. "You don't have to go," I told her. "Yes, I do." She straightened her shoulders. "I need to see it for myself." My phone buzzed. Mara was calling. "Turn on the news. You've been nominated for Businesswoman of the Year." Drew had already grabbed the remote. There I was on screen, my professional headshot next to the award logo. The announcer was talking about my company's meteoric rise and innovative approach to digital transformation. "Sophia," Shiloh whispered, "that's amazing." Before I could respond, my mother burst through the door. She still had a key from checking on my plants. "Have you seen the news?" she demanded, then stopped short seeing us all in the kitchen. "Oh, you're having breakfast together." "Mom," Shiloh started, but our mother cut her off. "I don't understand how you can sit here playing happy families when your husband is being arraigned for fraud today." "Ex-husband," I corrected automatically. "And whose fault is that?" Mom snapped. "If you hadn't rushed into divorce?" "That's enough," Drew said firmly, stepping forward. "Sophia's nomination is a huge achievement. That's what we're celebrating today." Mom's face crumpled. "Everything's falling apart. The neighbors won't stop talking. Your father can't sleep. And now you're getting awards while your sister's life is in shambles." "Actually," Shiloh spoke up, her voice stronger than I'd heard in weeks. "Sophia's helping me put my life back together, which is more than I deserve after what I did." The room fell silent. It was the first time Shiloh had acknowledged her role in everything in front of our mother. "What you did?" Mom looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Mom," I warned, but Shiloh shook her head. "She needs to know." Shiloh took a deep breath. "Jeremy was in love with me before he married Sophia. That's why their marriage ended." Mom sank into a kitchen chair. "What?" "And Shiloh's voice cracked. "I loved him too. We betrayed Sophia in the worst possible way. The silence that followed was deafening." My mother looked between us, her face going through a range of emotions. "The arraignment starts in an hour," Drew said quietly. "We should get going." The courthouse was packed with reporters. As we walked in, I heard whispers. "That's his ex-wife. And her sister. The one he left her for." Shiloh gripped my arm. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." I surprised myself by taking her hand. "We both can." Jeremy looked small in his orange jumpsuit. When he saw us enter, his eyes locked on Shiloh, then darted to me. I stared back, feeling nothing but pity. The charges were read: fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. Jeremy pleaded not guilty, but his voice shook. As they led him away, he called out, "Shiloh, please." She started to step forward, but I held her back. "Don't." "But—" "He's drowning, Shiloh. Don't let him drag you down with him." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Sophia, how does it feel to see your ex-husband facing prison?" "Shiloh, are you still in a relationship with the defendant?" Drew pushed through them, creating a path. Ms. Foster has no comment except to say she's honored to be nominated for Businesswoman of the Year. Her focus remains on growing her successful company and contributing to the business community. Back at my apartment, Shiloh collapsed onto the couch. "I can't believe this is my life now." It doesn't have to be, I said, sitting beside her. You're smart, Shiloh. You can rebuild just like I did. How can you even want to help me after everything? Because watching you suffer doesn't make me feel better. Being successful does. I handed her my laptop. I have a junior position opening up in my company. The pay's not great, but it's a start. She stared at me, then at Drew, who nodded encouragingly. Why? She whispered. Because karma's done its job, I said. Now it's time for grace. Drew wrapped his arm around me as Shiloh began to cry. Outside, camera flashes still lit up the street, but in here, in this moment, something broken was slowly beginning to heal. The boardroom fell silent as I finished presenting our quarterly results. Shiloh sat in the back, taking notes. She'd been with the company for 3 months now, starting at the bottom just like everyone else. Impressive numbers, said Marcus, our biggest investor. The Businesswoman of the Year nomination is well-deserved. As people filed out, Kylie rushed in. Sophia, there's something you need to see. She pulled up an email on her tablet. Owen's wife sent this. It's proof that Jeremy was planning to steal company assets even before your wedding. My hands gripped the edge of the table. Why is she sending this now? Jeremy's trying to cut a deal with prosecutors. She's afraid he'll pin everything on Owen. Shiloh appeared at my side, her face pale. There's more, she said quietly. Jeremy's been writing me letters from jail. This morning, he sent one saying he has evidence that could hurt you. What evidence? Drew asked, walking in. He's bluffing. I don't know, Shiloh replied. But he's desperate. The preliminary hearing is tomorrow. My phone buzzed. Mara. Turn on the news now. Kylie already had it streaming on the boardroom screen. Owen stood outside the courthouse, microphones thrust in his face. Evidence that Sophia Foster orchestrated this whole thing for revenge. She planted false information, manipulated records. That's ridiculous, Drew snapped. We have to respond. No, I said firmly. We don't. Sophia. Shiloh touched my arm. I should testify. Tell them about the letters, about how Jeremy confessed everything to me. Absolutely not. I turned to face her. You've worked too hard to rebuild your life. I won't let you throw it away for this. But she's right, Drew said. We handle this legally, through proper channels. Trisha burst into the room. Emergency board meeting in an hour. Owen's accusations are causing stock volatility. I straightened my jacket. Then we better be ready. As everyone filed out to prepare, Shiloh stayed behind. I need to show you something. She pulled out her phone, showing me a text from Jeremy. Tell Sophia I'm sorry. For everything. But I can't go to prison. He's going to do something stupid, she whispered. Before I could respond, Kylie rushed back in. Sophia, reporters are in the lobby. Lots of them. Use the back exit, Drew said, grabbing my briefcase. I'll handle the press. In the parking garage, Shiloh and I hurried toward my car. A figure stepped out from behind a pillar, Jeremy's father. Please, he said, his voice breaking. Help my son. Mr. Lawson, I started, but he cut me off. He's sick, Sophia. He needs treatment, not prison. If you speak on his behalf. Your son committed fraud, I said firmly. He stole people's life savings. That's not illness, that's choice. He loves you both so much, the old man pleaded, looking between Shiloh and me. It tore him apart. No, Shiloh stepped forward. He loved himself more than anyone. That's why we're all here. My phone rang. Trisha again. The board's waiting. Where are you? On my way. I turned to Jeremy's father. I'm sorry, but I can't help. Back in the boardroom, I faced the board with steady confidence. Owen's accusations are desperate attempts by a guilty man to create reasonable doubt. Our records are immaculate, our practices transparent. And what about the personal angle? One board member asked. The revenge narrative? My personal history with Jeremy is well documented, I replied, as is my company's success. One has nothing to do with the other. My phone buzzed with a text from Drew. Jeremy just posted a video online. It's going viral. Kylie was already pulling it up on the screen. Jeremy's face appeared, haggard and desperate. I need to confess something, he said. Sophia isn't responsible for anything. I destroyed my own life. I betrayed the only woman who ever truly loved me, hurt her in the worst possible way, and then tried to blame her for my downfall. She's innocent. I'm the guilty one. In everything. The boardroom erupted in murmurs. Shiloh gripped my hand under the table. Well, Trisha said, standing up. I believe that settles it. Shall we proceed with business as usual? Later that night, in my office, Drew found me staring out the window. You okay? He asked, wrapping his arms around me. I thought revenge would feel better than this, I admitted, but watching everyone self-destruct, it just feels empty. That's because you're better than revenge, he said, turning me to face him. You built something real, something lasting. My phone lit up with a final text from Jeremy. I'm turning myself in tomorrow. No deals, no accusations, just the truth. I'm sorry for everything. I deleted the message without responding. Some chapters needed to stay closed. Come on, Drew said, taking my hand. Let's go home. The lights of the awards ceremony ballroom sparkled like stars as I adjusted my evening gown backstage. Drew straightened his bow tie beside me. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. Almost. I checked my phone one last time. A message from Shiloh. You've got this, sis. We're all in the audience cheering for you. The past month had been a whirlwind. Jeremy and Owen had both pleaded guilty, accepting plea deals that would put them behind bars for at least a decade. Their company had been dissolved, but we'd managed to save most of their employees' jobs by absorbing their legitimate contracts. Sophia? The event coordinator appeared. You're on in 5 minutes. Drew squeezed my hand. I have something to ask you before you go out there. Now? I raised an eyebrow. He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. I was going to wait until after, but, Sophia, this past year has shown me what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. Will you marry me? Before I could answer, Mara burst through the curtain. Sophia, they need you on stage. Oh. She stopped short, seeing Drew on his knee. Yes, I said quickly, my heart racing. Yes, but we need to finish this conversation later. Drew slipped the ring on my finger just as the announcer's voice boomed. And now our Businesswoman of the Year. I walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. In the front row, I saw Shiloh sitting with our parents, all of them beaming. Mara and Kylie were there too, giving me thumbs up. And Drew, my new fiancé, standing in the wings with that proud smile. Thank you, I began, adjusting the microphone. A year ago, I thought my life was over. My marriage had imploded, my family was fractured, and my trust in people was shattered. The audience fell silent. But sometimes, what feels like an ending is really a beginning. Sometimes, the worst betrayal can lead to the greatest growth. I stand here not because I sought revenge, but because I chose to rise above it. Movement at the back of the hall caught my eye. Jeremy's father had slipped in, standing quietly by the door. Success isn't about watching others fail. It's about building something meaningful from the ashes of disappointment. It's about choosing grace when bitterness would be easier. Shiloh wiped tears from her eyes as our mother held her hand. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who helped me rebuild. My incredible team, my supportive family, I glanced at Drew, my future husband, who just proposed backstage 5 minutes ago. The audience erupted in cheers and laughter. But most importantly, this award belongs to every person who's ever been betrayed, hurt, or knocked down. You can get back up. You can rebuild. You can succeed not despite your pain, but because of how it shaped you. As I accepted the award, my phone buzzed in my clutch. Later, I would see it was a message from Jeremy. Congratulations. You deserve every success. I'm sorry I couldn't see your worth when I had the chance. At the after party, Shiloh hugged me tight. That speech was incredible. I meant every word, I said, looking at her, including the part about Grace. Sophia, our mother interrupted. Jeremy's father is here. He'd like to speak with you. I found him by the bar, looking older than I remembered. Congratulations, he said softly. Thank you for coming. Jeremy watched your speech. They streamed it at the facility. He twisted his hands together. He wanted you to know he's getting help. Real help this time. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. And, he continued, he hopes someday you'll both find it in your hearts to forgive him. Someday, I said carefully, but not today. Drew appeared at my side, protective as always. Everything okay? Yes, I said, turning to him. Everything's perfect. Later that night, as the party wound down, I found myself on the balcony with Shiloh. She was looking at the city lights, lost in thought. I got a job offer, she said suddenly. A good one, with a magazine in Chicago. Are you going to take it? I think I need to. Build my own life, like you did. She turned to me. Thank you, Sophia, for showing me how to be strong. You always were strong, I told her. You just forgot for a while. Drew joined us, wrapping his arm around my waist. Ready to go home? I looked at my sister, then at my fiancé, then at the glittering city below. A year ago, I thought revenge would heal me. Instead, I found healing and forgiveness. Not for those who hurt me, but for myself. Yes, I said, taking both their hands. Let's go home. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I finished typing the last sentence of my memoir. Drew knocked softly before entering, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Still working on the book? He asked, setting my cup down. Just finished, actually. I closed my laptop. Just in time for Shiloh's flight. My sister was flying in from Chicago for the weekend. Her magazine had become one of the most successful digital publications in the Midwest. We'd rebuilt our relationship slowly, carefully, like setting a broken bone. Miss Foster? My assistant poked her head in. There's someone here to see you. Says it's important. Owen's wife stood in the reception area, clutching her purse. I'm sorry to come unannounced, she said, but Jeremy asked me to give you this. She held out an envelope. I don't want... Please, she interrupted. He's completed his rehabilitation program. He's different now. I took the envelope but didn't open it. How's Owen? Serving his time, she said quietly. Unlike Jeremy, he's still in denial about everything. After she left, Drew watched me stare at the envelope. You don't have to read it. Yes, I do. I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear Sophia, I'm not writing to ask forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing to thank you. Your success showed me what real strength looks like. Your grace showed me what real character looks like. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of having once been loved by someone like you. Jeremy. My phone buzzed. Shiloh had landed. Want me to pick her up? Drew offered. No, I need to do this. At the airport, Shiloh ran to hug me, looking healthy and confident. I have news, she said as we walked to my car. I met someone. Tell me everything. He's kind, honest, successful. She paused. And he knows everything about my past, about Jeremy, about what I did to you. He says our mistakes don't define us. He's right. I handed her Jeremy's letter. Read this when you're ready. Back at my office, I found Mara waiting with Kylie. The publisher called, Mara announced. They want to fast-track your book. They think it could help a lot of people. Speaking of helping people, Kylie added, the women's shelter loved your proposal. They want to partner with us on the business training program for abuse survivors. I looked around my office, at the Businesswoman of the Year award, at the photo of Drew and me at our engagement party, at the sister I'd almost lost but found again. Sophia? Drew appeared in the doorway. Your mother's here. Mom walked in, carrying a familiar-looking box. I found this in the attic, she said, setting it down. Your old journals from right after everything. I opened the box, finding the tear-stained pages I'd poured my heart into during those dark days. I was so angry then, I said softly. You had every right to be, Mom replied. But look what you built from that anger. Shiloh picked up one of the journals. We should include these in your book. Show people how far you've come. How far we've all come, I corrected. My phone lit up with a message from Trisha. Just heard Jeremy's getting released early for good behavior. You okay? I looked at Drew, who read the message over my shoulder. Whatever you need, he said quietly. I need to finish my book, I replied, opening my laptop again. People need to know that rock bottom can become a foundation. Shiloh read the final paragraph over my shoulder. Revenge is like holding on to a burning coal, hoping the other person feels the heat. True power comes from letting go, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. My story isn't about the betrayal anymore. It's about what I built after the breaking. It's perfect, she whispered. Drew gathered everyone for dinner at our favorite restaurant, the same one where Owen had once begged for help. As we celebrated Shiloh's success and my book deal, I realized something profound. Happiness isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. To new beginnings, Drew proposed a toast. And to old wounds that became wisdom, I added. Shiloh raised her glass last. To sisters who became stronger than their scars. As we clinked glasses, I felt the weight of Jeremy's letter in my purse. Tomorrow, I would file it away with my old journals, not to forget, but to remember how far I'd come. Some chapters end in tragedy, others in triumph. Mine had ended in transformation, and that was the sweetest revenge of all.
The day I discovered my mother had stolen my future started like any other Thursday. I was sitting in the financial aid office at Berkeley, expecting to sort out a minor paperwork issue. Instead, I learned that my entire college fund had been emptied 3 days ago. My name is Eliza, and I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake, I said, leaning forward in the hard plastic chair. That account was set up when I was born. My grandparents left that money specifically for my education. The financial aid officer, her nameplate read Ms. Thompson, gave me that practiced look of sympathy I'd come to hate. The withdrawal was authorized by the primary account holder, your mother. Everything appears to be in order legally. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Carter. Got into Harvard Med. Mom's throwing a celebration dinner tonight. Be there by 7. The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. I stumbled out of the office into the bright California sunshine, my vision blurring. Calling my mother was futile. I knew she'd ignore me until dinner, but I tried anyway. Straight to voicemail. Hey, bestie, you look like you've seen a ghost, Sabrina called out, jogging across the quad to meet me. One look at my face and her smile vanished. What happened? She took it, Sab, all of it, my entire tuition fund. My voice cracked. Mom emptied my account to pay for Carter's medical school. She did what? Sabrina grabbed my shoulders. That's impossible. It's illegal. Not when her name was on the account, too. I laughed bitterly. Apparently, my future was just a backup plan for Golden Boy Carter all along. You have to confront her, Sabrina insisted. This is beyond messed up. Oh, I will. At Carter's celebration dinner tonight. I checked my phone again. 2:30 p.m. Want to help me plan what to say? We spent the afternoon in our favorite coffee shop, where I cycled between rage and despair while Sabrina helped me craft what I'd say. But when I walked into my childhood home that evening, all my carefully prepared speeches evaporated. The house was decorated with balloons and a congratulations banner. My mother was in full hostess mode, floating around in her favorite pearl necklace, serving appetizers to relatives. Eliza, finally! She air-kissed my cheek. Carter has such wonderful news. Yeah, Mom, I heard. I forced a smile. Harvard Med. Pretty expensive, isn't it? She froze for just a fraction of a second before recovering. We'll manage. Family always finds a way. Found a way already, didn't you? I said quietly. Before she could respond, Carter bounded down the stairs. Sis, you made it. He wrapped me in a bear hug, and for a moment I almost forgot I was supposed to be angry. My brother had always been affectionate, oblivious to our mother's obvious favoritism. Dinner's ready, Mom called out, effectively ending any chance of confrontation. I sat through the toasts, the congratulations, the proud parental speeches. With each passing minute, my anger crystallized into something harder, colder. When dessert arrived, I stood up. "I'd like to make a toast too," I said, raising my glass. The table fell silent. "To Harvard Medical School. To achieving your dreams." I looked directly at my mother. "No matter who you have to steal from to get there." "Eliza!" Mom's warning tone, the one that had cowed me so many times before, only fueled my resolve. "Tell them, Mom. Tell everyone how you paid for Carter's acceptance. Tell them about emptying my college fund today." The silence was deafening. Carter's face drained of color. "What is she talking about, Mom?" "I did what was necessary," she said firmly. "Your brother's future is worth more than mine," I finished. "Yeah, that's been pretty clear my whole life." I set my glass down with a sharp clink and grabbed my purse. "Congratulations again, Carter. I hope Harvard is everything you dreamed it would be. I'll be dropping out tomorrow, by the way, since I can't afford tuition anymore." As I walked out, I heard chairs scraping, voices raised in confusion and argument. But I didn't look back. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called the one person who might be able to help me salvage my future. "Gavin, it's Eliza. Remember that business idea we discussed? I'm ready to start. Tonight." Gavin's office smelled like coffee and ambition. 3 days after the disastrous dinner, I sat across from him, watching him review my business proposal on his tablet. "An online marketplace for vintage college merchandise?" He raised an eyebrow. "Interesting angle." "Think about it," I said, leaning forward. "Every college has decades of design changes in their merchandise. People get nostalgic about the exact style from their era, but finding authentic vintage pieces is nearly impossible. And you want to solve that problem." Gavin set down his tablet. "With zero capital and no business experience." "I have something better than capital," I countered. "I have 3 years of connections from working at the campus bookstore. I know every collector, every supplier, and every trend in college merchandise." Sabrina burst into the office, arms full of shopping bags. "Sorry I'm late, but I got them. 5 different decades of Berkeley sweaters, all authentic." I pulled out the 1985 sweater, holding it up. "This sold for $15 new. Today collectors will pay $300 for it. And that's just Berkeley. Imagine having every major university's vintage merchandise in one place." Gavin's expression shifted from skeptical to intrigued. "Show me the numbers." For the next hour, we laid out spreadsheets, market research, and a detailed business plan. When we finished, Gavin stood up and walked to his window, hands clasped behind his back. "You'll need a website, authentication processes, storage space." He turned around. "I can help with that, but you'll have to drop out of college. This needs your full attention." "Already done," I said quietly. "As of yesterday, I'm officially withdrawn from Berkeley." "Your mother called me," he said suddenly. "Wanted me to talk you out of leaving school." My stomach clenched. "And?" "I told her I don't work for free. She didn't appreciate that." He smiled slightly. "Look, Eliza, what happened to you was wrong. But revenge won't build a successful business. Are you doing this for the right reasons?" "I'm doing this because I have no choice," I shot back. "But I'm also doing it because it's a damn good idea." "It is," he agreed, "which is why I'm investing $50,000 for a 20% stake." Sabrina squealed and hugged me. I sat there, stunned. "One condition," he added. "You work here in my office where I can mentor you directly. Deal?" "Deal," I managed to say through my shock. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Sabrina helped me set up our authentication process while juggling her own classes. We transformed a corner of Gavin's office into our operations center, with vintage merchandise carefully cataloged and photographed. "Your website traffic is increasing," Gavin announced one morning, 6 weeks in. "But you need more inventory, high-end stuff." "I know where to get it," I said, thinking of Ray, my old classmate who'd been trying to sell his father's collection. "But it's expensive." "Use some of the profit from last week's sales," Gavin suggested. "You're turning a profit already, might as well reinvest it." My phone buzzed. Carter calling again. I declined the call. "You can't avoid your family forever," Sabrina said softly. "Watch me." I turned back to my laptop. Besides, I'm busy building something they said I couldn't. That evening, as I was photographing new inventory, my mother showed up unannounced. She stood in the doorway, looking out of place in her expensive clothes. "You're making a mistake," she said without preamble. "This little business won't last. Come home, we'll figure something out for your tuition." I continued photographing a 1973 Yale pennant. Like what? Stealing from someone else's college fund? "That money was always meant for whoever needed it most," she insisted. "Carter's medical school. Get out." I finally looked at her. "Unless you're here to buy something, get out." She left, but not before saying, "You're throwing your life away, just like your father did." I froze. My father had died when I was young, and Mom rarely mentioned him. Something in her tone made me wonder what she wasn't telling me. Later that night, I got a text from Ray. "Hey, about my dad's collection. There's something you should know. It's about your family." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Tell me everything." The vintage Yale pennant sat on my desk, a reminder of why I started this journey. But maybe, just maybe, I was about to discover it wasn't just about the business anymore. Something bigger was unfolding, and for the first time since that day in the financial aid office, I felt a thrill of anticipation rather than anger. My phone buzzed again, another text from Ray. "Meet me tomorrow. You won't believe what I found." Ray was already waiting at the coffee shop when I arrived, a thick manila envelope on the table in front of him. His expression was grave, not the usual easy smile I remembered from our college days. "Before I show you this," he said as I sat down, "you need to know that my father was your dad's business partner." I nearly dropped my coffee. "What? Mom never mentioned—" "There's a lot your mom never mentioned." Ray slid the envelope across the table. "My father kept everything. He always said someday the truth would matter." Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, and documents. The first photo showed my father and Ray's dad standing proudly in front of a store. "Jensen and Allen Vintage Collectibles. Your father wasn't a failure like your mom always claimed," Ray said quietly. Their business was worth millions. They were pioneers in the vintage collectibles market. My hands shook as I spread out the documents. "Then what happened?" "Your mom happened?" Ray pointed to a series of bank statements. "She convinced your father to put everything in her name for tax purposes. 2 weeks before he died, she sold the business and pocketed everything. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too hot." "Are you saying—" "Your college fund? That was pocket change compared to what she really took." Ray's voice was gentle. "The money she's been using to support Carter all these years? It was your inheritance." My phone lit up with a notification. Our website had just hit a major sales milestone. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Does Carter know?" I asked. "No way, he was too young to remember any of this." Ray gathered the documents back into the envelope. "But here's where it gets interesting. The business she sold? It went bankrupt 6 months later. The new owners claimed fraud, said the books were cooked." I stood up abruptly. "I need to show this to Gavin." An hour later, Gavin studied the documents while I paced his office. "This explains why your vintage business idea came so naturally to you," he mused. "It's literally in your blood." "We have to go public with this," Sabrina insisted, but Gavin shook his head. "Not yet. First, we need to build something bigger than your mother ever imagined." He looked at me intently. "How would you like to buy back your father's original store location?" My heart skipped. "It's for sale?" "Better. It's in foreclosure. The current owner's underwater, and I know the bank holding the note." He smiled. "Imagine the poetry. Your new company operating from the same building where your father started." Before I could respond, my phone rang. "Carter." "Sis, we need to talk," he said when I answered. "I'm having doubts about medical school. The pressure from Mom, the expectations. I don't think it's what I really want." "Meet me at Gavin's office," I said. "There's something you need to see." Carter arrived looking exhausted, nothing like the golden boy from the celebration dinner. When I showed him the documents, he sat in stunned silence. "All those years," he finally said. "She made it sound like Dad was a dreamer who couldn't provide for his family. But she was the one who—" He couldn't finish. "The question is," Gavin interjected, "what are you going to do about it?" I looked at the website analytics on my screen. We'd just had our biggest sales day ever. "I'm going to build something bigger than she ever dreamed possible. And Carter?" I turned to my brother. "If you want out of medical school, I could use help running this business." "Mom will lose it," Carter warned, but he was already smiling. "Mom lost it all years ago. I replied. She just doesn't know it yet. That evening, as I was leaving the office, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my mother having dinner with someone I recognized, the lawyer who'd handled the sale of my father's business 20 years ago. Thought you should know. Ray's message followed. They've been meeting regularly. Something's up. I forwarded the photo to Gavin with a simple message. Time to accelerate our plans? His response came immediately. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring Carter. We're buying that building. I drove home past my father's old store location. The building was dark, abandoned, but I could almost see it as it was in that old photograph. Bright, alive, full of promise. Soon it would be again, but this time, no one would be able to steal it away. My phone buzzed with another text from my mother. Family dinner Sunday. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your future. I smiled as I typed my response. You're right. We absolutely do. The asking price is $2 million, Gavin announced, spreading the building plans across his desk. But given the foreclosure situation, we can probably get it for half that. Carter whistled. And you think we can afford this? Show him. Sabrina nudged me, grinning. I pulled up our sales reports. We did $300,000 in revenue last month alone. Our authentication process is now the industry standard, and 3 major universities want exclusive partnerships. Holy shit, sis. Carter stared at the numbers. In just 3 months? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Ray's message made my blood run cold. Your mom's lawyer just filed paperwork claiming rights to your business name. They're saying it infringes on the old company's trademark. Unbelievable, I muttered, showing the message to Gavin. Actually, this is perfect, Gavin said, looking oddly pleased. She just proved she's been monitoring your success. Time to play our hand. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier delivered a thick envelope, the preliminary paperwork for the building purchase. Sign here. Gavin pushed the documents toward me. Once this goes through, we'll own the building by Friday. Wait, Carter grabbed my arm. Mom's having dinner with her lawyer tonight. Let me go. I can find out what they're planning. I hesitated. Are you sure? If she realizes you're working with me? She still thinks I'm her golden child, he said bitterly. Let me use that. That evening, while Carter was at dinner with our mother, I met Ray at his father's storage unit. The space was packed with vintage merchandise, but he led me straight to a small safe in the corner. Found this yesterday, he said, entering the combination. Dad kept a separate record of all transactions with your mother. Inside was a ledger and a USB drive. The digital files show every penny she embezzled, Ray explained, including, he paused dramatically, the money she's been hiding from the IRS. My phone lit up with a text from Carter. Mom's trying to shut you down, claims trademark violation plus emotional distress. Lawyer says they file tomorrow. Perfect timing, I murmured, holding up the USB drive. Back at the office, Gavin reviewed the files while Sabrina ordered late-night pizza. This is better than we thought, he said finally. She didn't just steal from your father's business. She's been running a shell game for years, moving money around to avoid taxes. The IRS would love this. So, what's our play? Sabrina asked through a mouthful of pizza. We close on the building tomorrow morning, I decided, before she can file anything. Then, another text from Carter interrupted. Mom drunk, said something about making sure history doesn't repeat itself. What did she mean? Ray leaned forward. There's something else you need to see. He pulled out one final document, a life insurance policy on my father. The beneficiary was changed 3 days before his death. The accident report was inconclusive. The pizza turned to ash in my mouth. Are you saying... I'm saying your mother has a pattern of making problems disappear, Ray said quietly. Be careful. The next morning, I stood in front of the old building, my father's building, watching the sunrise paint the worn brick gold. Sabrina arrived with coffee, followed by Carter looking hungover. Mom's still passed out, he reported, but her lawyer's office opens in an hour. Then let's do this, I said, walking into the bank. Signing the papers took 20 minutes. When we walked out, I officially owned my father's legacy. My phone immediately buzzed. My mother. What have you done? She hissed. That building was supposed to be mine. Like everything else you stole? I shot back. Check your email, Mom. I just sent you something interesting. You have 1 hour to call off your lawyer, or the IRS gets a copy. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Oh, and Mom, I know about Dad's life insurance policy. The line went dead. Back at Gavin's office, we watched the security footage as my mother stormed into her lawyer's office, emerging 15 minutes later looking defeated. She'll back off, Carter predicted, but she won't stop. I know, I said, looking at the USB drive containing 2 decades of her crimes. That's why we're not done yet. Sabrina pulled up our website analytics. Holy crap, the publicity from buying the building just doubled our traffic. Focus on that for now, Gavin advised. Build something so big she can't touch it. Then we finish this. I completed his thought, picking up the old photo of my father in front of his store. For Dad. Ray appeared in the doorway. Just got word. Your mother's lawyer quit, but she's already meeting with another one. Let her, I smiled. The real show hasn't even started yet. The renovation crew had just finished installing the new storefront sign when my mother's Mercedes pulled up. I watched from the second-floor window as she stepped out, designer handbag clutched like a shield. Should we call security? Sabrina asked, but I shook my head. Let her come. The bell above the door chimed. We'd kept it from Dad's old shop. My mother's heels clicked across the restored hardwood floors. Impressive, she said, looking around the modernized space. Your father would have loved this. Of course, he always did prefer dreams to reality. Like the reality of how he died? I kept my voice steady. Or the reality of where his money went. She flinched but recovered quickly. I came to make you an offer. Sell me the business, all of it. I'll pay double what it's worth. Carter emerged from the back office. With what money, Mom? The inheritance you stole from us? She hadn't expected to see him here. Carter? What are you? You should be at medical school. I withdrew, he said. Turns out I prefer working with my sister to living your dreams. Mom's face hardened. Everything I did was for this family. Really? I pulled out Ray's ledger, like changing Dad's life insurance policy right before his accident. The color drained from her face. You don't understand. Mrs. Jensen? A man in a suit appeared at the door. I'm Agent Morris, IRS Criminal Investigation Division. We'd like to ask you some questions. I hadn't called them. By the look on Ray's face as he came down the stairs, he had. This isn't over, Mom hissed as the agent led her outside. Actually, it is, Gavin said, emerging from his office. Your daughter's company just signed exclusive contracts with 12 major universities. She's now worth more than you ever were. After she left with the IRS agent, Carter slumped against the counter. What happens now? Now? I gestured to the boxes of vintage merchandise waiting to be authenticated. We work. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Our sales doubled, then tripled. We hired staff, expanded our warehouse space, and launched a mobile app for collectors. Your mother's assets have been frozen, Ray reported one morning. The IRS found irregularities going back decades. I was about to respond when Sabrina burst in. You need to see this. She thrust her phone at me. It was a local news article. The headline made my stomach drop. Local businesswoman attempts suicide after fraud investigation. She's stable, Carter said from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him come in. But she's asking for us. Both of us. The hospital room was painfully white. Mom looked small in the bed, her designer clothes replaced by a plain gown. I suppose you're happy now, she said weakly. Happy? I felt the anger rise. You tried to destroy my business just like you destroyed Dad's. Your father destroyed himself, she snapped. His obsession with that store, with building something meaningful instead of practical. When he started talking about exposing our financial arrangements to the board, she stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd just admitted. So you made sure he couldn't, Carter said, his voice shaking. How did you do it, Mom? His car accident, was it really an accident? Get out, she whispered. Both of you, get out. Back at the store, Gavin was waiting with news. The IRS wants to make a deal. They'll reduce the charges if she cooperates fully. No deals, I said firmly. She needs to face everything she's done. That evening, as I locked up the store, I noticed a familiar car across the street. Ray's father, now recovered from his stroke, sat in the passenger seat. He wanted to see the store one last time, Ray explained. Dad, show her what you brought. The old man handed me a yellowed envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, dated the day before he died. Dear Eliza, it began, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Your mother's schemes run deeper than I imagined. But remember, a business is more than money. It's a legacy. And someday, you'll build something greater than I ever could. My phone buzzed. A text from Carter. Mom's lawyer called. She wants to confess. Everything. I looked up at the store sign, glowing softly in the dusk. Jensen and Allen Vintage Collections. A legacy reborn. Dad was right, I said to Ray. This was never about the money. No, he agreed. It was about justice. Another text came through, this time from Sabrina. You need to see tomorrow's sales projections. We're about to hit 8 figures. I smiled, tucking my father's letter safely away. The truth was finally coming out. My business was thriving, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. But something told me my mother had one last card to play. Your mother wants to meet, Gavin announced, setting his phone down. Her lawyer says she's ready to tell you everything, about your father, the business, all of it. I looked up from the vintage Yale sweater I was authenticating. Why now? Because of this. Ray walked in, waving a document. The DA's office is considering upgrading the charges. They found new evidence about your father's accident. My hands shook as I read the report. Brake lines? Deliberately cut? They're reopening the case as a potential homicide, Ray confirmed. Mom's trying to get ahead of it. Carter burst through the door, out of breath. She's selling the house, already has a buyer. Of course she is, I muttered. Liquidating assets before the trial. Sabrina, who'd been quietly monitoring our online sales, suddenly spoke up. Guys, someone just tried to hack our authentication database. They were looking for something specific, all records related to merchandise from 1995. The year Dad died, Carter said. I grabbed my keys. Ray, come with me to the storage unit. The rest of you, keep the business running. Something's not adding up. At the storage unit, Ray's father was already waiting, looking frail but determined. He pointed to a dusty box in the corner. Your father's personal collection, he explained. He kept records of everything, especially in those last months. Inside, we found a journal and dozens of Polaroid photos. One caught my eye. Dad standing next to a display case full of rare college pennants, including one that made my blood run cold. That's impossible, I whispered. That exact pennant was sold through our website last week, for $50,000. Ray's father grabbed the photo. This collection was supposed to be destroyed in the fire. What fire? The warehouse fire, 2 days after your father died. Insurance paid out millions. Your mother claimed all the vintage stock was lost. My phone rang. Gavin, your mother's at the store. She's demanding to see you. Keep her there, I said. I'm bringing proof of another fraud. When we arrived, Mom was sitting in my office like she owned it. Her hospital gown had been replaced by her usual designer outfit, but her eyes were different, desperate. Going somewhere? I asked, noting her packed suitcase by the door. Selling the house was my choice, she said defensively. I need a fresh start. Like the fresh start you got after killing Dad? She flinched. You don't understand. The business was failing. He was going to expose everything, ruin us all. I had to protect our future. By cutting his brake lines? Carter's voice cracked. By burning down a warehouse full of evidence? That warehouse fire paid for your entire childhood, she snapped. Your education, your lifestyle. But the merchandise wasn't destroyed, was it? I held up the Polaroid. You moved it first. You've been selling pieces of Dad's collection slowly for years. Her face went blank. How did you... The pennant that sold last week, it's in this photo, with Dad, from 1995. I leaned forward. The same collection you claimed burned. Insurance fraud on top of everything else? You have no proof, she said, but her hands were shaking. Actually, Ray stepped forward. We do. My father kept copies of everything, including the real inventory list from the warehouse, dated after the fire. Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled. This is why I had to do it. You're just like him, digging up the past, threatening everything I built. You built? I laughed. You stole. From Dad, from us, from the insurance company. And now you're trying to run before it all catches up to you. Mrs. Jensen? Agent Morris appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 police officers. We have some additional questions about your husband's death. As they led her away, she turned to me one last time. I saved every penny for you kids. Everything I did was for you. No, Carter said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself. After she was gone, Gavin handed me a document. The DA wants to meet tomorrow. They're offering a deal. If she confesses to everything, including your father's death, they'll recommend a lighter sentence. And the insurance fraud? Ray asked. That's federal. Gavin smiled grimly. No deals there. I looked around the store, at the vintage merchandise displayed exactly as Dad had done it, at the old photos now hanging proudly on the walls, at Carter learning the business from the ground up like I had. She was wrong, you know, Sabrina said softly, about the business failing. Your dad's records show it was thriving. She just wanted control. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom's lawyer. She's ready to confess. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. She says to bring the old photos. All of them. It's a trap, Carter warned. Probably, I agreed, but I'll be ready this time. I picked up Dad's journal, running my fingers over his familiar handwriting. Tomorrow would change everything, but first we had a store to run. The district attorney's office felt colder than I remembered. Mom sat across the table, her designer outfit replaced by prison orange, her perfectly manicured nails now bare and bitten. Before we begin, her lawyer said, my client has a proposition. No deals, I replied, but Mom raised her hand. Just listen, Eliza, please. Her voice cracked on my name. There's a storage unit in Sacramento. The key is in my bedroom safe. Everything your father collected, the real collection, it's all there. Carter, sitting beside me, leaned forward. The collection you said burned? Worth millions now, she continued. I've been selling pieces slowly, building a nest egg. It's all yours, both of you, if you drop the charges. The DA cleared his throat. Mrs. Jensen, are you attempting to bribe witnesses? I'm trying to protect my children, she snapped. Everything I did was for us. Yeah, we know. I pulled out Dad's journal. But here's what I don't understand. The warehouse fire, Dad's accident, the stolen business, that all makes sense. Evil sense, but sense. What I don't get is this entry. I opened to a marked page and read aloud. Eloise seems different since the board meeting. Distant. Scared. Something about the overseas accounts doesn't add up. Mom's face went white. Funny thing, I continued. Ray's father remembered those accounts. Said they belonged to someone named Marcus. Ring any bells? Don't, she whispered. Marcus was Dad's brother, wasn't he? The one you said died before I was born? Carter's voice was steel. Except he didn't die. He disappeared with millions in company money. Money you helped him steal. The DA sat up straighter. Is this true, Mrs. Jensen? Marcus was a mistake, she said quietly. Your father found out. He was going to report everything, ruin all our lives. I had to stop him. By killing him? I slammed the journal down. Your own husband? I loved your father, she shouted. But he was weak, always putting principles before family. Marcus promised we'd be set for life if I helped him. When your father discovered the truth, you chose money over him, Carter finished. I chose survival. She turned to the DA. Fine, you want a confession? Here it is. I helped Marcus steal the money. When David threatened to expose us, I cut his brake lines. I staged the warehouse fire to hide the missing inventory. I took everything from my children's inheritance. Happy now? The room fell silent. The DA's recorder blinked red. And Marcus? He prompted. Mom laughed bitterly. Dead. For real this time. Heart attack in Buenos Aires 3 years ago. The money's gone, gambling, bad investments. That's why I needed Eliza's college fund for Carter. Why I tried to stop her business before she dug too deep. Mrs. Jensen, the DA said formally, you understand this confession, combined with the new evidence, means 20 to life? She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. I understand I've lost everything that matters anyway. As the guards let her out, she turned back. The storage unit key. Get it before they seize the house. That collection was your father's legacy. It should be yours. That evening, we gathered in the store. Ray's father had insisted on coming, despite his health. The safe combination, he said, handing me a slip of paper. David told me, just in case, said his wife had been acting strange. The house felt empty when we arrived. In my mother's bedroom, the safe opened with a soft click. Inside lay a single key and a letter. My dearest children, I read aloud. If you're reading this, the truth about Marcus and your father has finally come out. The collection in Sacramento isn't just vintage merchandise, it's evidence. Every piece tells part of the story. Your father was building a case, right until the end. Now it's yours to finish. Love, Mom. A confession and a treasure map, Sabrina mused. Think it's real? Only one way to find out, Carter said, grabbing the key. My phone buzzed. Gavin. The DA called. Your mother's officially pleading guilty to all charges. And Eliza, our website just hit 1 million users. I looked around my mother's room one last time. The photos on her dresser, family vacations, graduations, forced smiles hiding deadly secrets. Sacramento's 3 hours away, Ray said. We could go tonight. No, I decided. First, we celebrate. The truth's out, the business is thriving, and Dad's finally got justice. And tomorrow? Carter asked. I pocketed the key. Tomorrow we find out what other secrets Mom's been keeping. But right now we've won. As we left the house, I saw my mother's lawyer pulling up. One last thing she wanted you to know, he called out. The combination to that storage unit, it's not what you think. Be careful what you wish for. I gripped the key tighter. Something told me this wasn't over yet. The Sacramento storage facility loomed before us in the early morning light. Carter gripped the key while Ray checked the unit number from Mom's letter. Unit 247, he confirmed. But your mother's lawyer was right. Something's off. This facility only opened 5 years ago. Then how did Dad store anything here? I wondered aloud. Sabrina, who'd been checking her phone, suddenly grabbed my arm. Guys, the business registration for this place. The owner is Marcus. The key felt heavier in Carter's hand. Dead Marcus? Mom's partner in crime Marcus? Our uncle Marcus, I corrected, who supposedly died in Buenos Aires. The unit's lock clicked open. Inside, instead of vintage merchandise, we found a single desk with a laptop and a note. Password, the day you stopped believing in fairy tales. The day Dad died, Carter whispered. The laptop hummed to life. A video file started playing automatically, showing our Uncle Marcus, very much alive, recording from what looked like a tropical location. Hello, kids. If you're watching this, your mother finally cracked. The truth is, I never stole that money. Your father and I were investigating your mother's embezzlement scheme. She discovered us and, well, you know what happened to David. My hands shook as I gripped the desk. The vintage collection was real, Marcus continued, but it wasn't in this unit. Check your father's old office, the one you're running your business from now, Eliza. Behind the north wall, David built a secret room before he died. Everything's there, including proof of your mother's crimes going back 30 years. Carter was already calling Gavin. Get a contractor to the store, now. Back at our building, the contractor's tools revealed a hidden door behind the vintage display case. Inside, climate-controlled and perfectly preserved, was Dad's real collection, and so much more. Look at this, Ray's father breathed, holding up a ledger. Every transaction, every scheme, every dollar your mother stole. David documented everything. But why didn't Marcus come forward? Sabrina asked. Another video file answered that question. This one from a hidden camera in Dad's office the day he died. Mom's voice came through clearly. If anything happens to me, Marcus, my friends in Buenos Aires will ensure you actually do die this time. She was blackmailing him, Carter realized, forcing him to play dead while she controlled everything. My phone rang, an international number. Hello, Eliza? Marcus's voice was older than in the video, but unmistakable. Found my little time capsule, did you? Where are you? Somewhere safe. Now that your mother's going to prison, I can finally come home. The vintage collection, the real one, it's yours. Both of you. It's what David wanted. And the evidence? Already sent copies to the FBI. Your mother's friends in Buenos Aires are being arrested as we speak. Her entire network is falling apart. After hanging up, I walked through the hidden room, touching each carefully preserved piece. Dad's collection, his real legacy, had been here all along, right behind my office wall. Eliza, Gavin called from the main room. You need to see this. The store was filled with reporters. News of the hidden room, the evidence, the international crime ring. It had all broken at once. Our website had crashed from traffic. Make a statement, Gavin urged. "This is better than any marketing campaign." I stepped forward, Carter at my side. My father built this business on trust and authenticity. Today, we found proof that his principles were worth dying for. Moving forward, Jensen and Allen Vintage Collections will continue his legacy, not just in selling vintage merchandise, but in valuing truth above all. Later that evening, as the media frenzy died down, I sat in Dad's hidden room, reading his final journal entry. "My dearest Eliza, you've always seen the value in things others overlook. Trust that instinct. The truth, like vintage treasures, only grows more valuable with time." Carter appeared in the doorway. "Mom's lawyer called. She's refusing visitors, but she left this for you." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single photo, Mom and Dad on their wedding day, young and in love, before greed poisoned everything. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, "I'm sorry. Some things are worth more than money. I learned too late." I pinned the photo to the wall, next to Dad's original store sign. "What now?" Sabrina asked, surveying our expanded empire. "Now?" I smiled, picking up a vintage Yale pennant, the real one this time. "Now we build something worthy of Dad's legacy. Something true." Through the window, I could see our store's sign glowing in the dusk. Below it, customers lined up despite the late hour, drawn by the day's revelations, each one hoping to own a piece of history, real history this time. The truth had finally set us all free.
The text message from my mother lit up my phone screen. "Family meeting, tonight, 7 p.m. sharp, non-negotiable." My stomach dropped as I stared at those words, knowing exactly what they meant. Ethan had screwed up again, and I was about to become the family ATM. I'm Robin, and at 28, I've built a life that most would envy. Executive position at a tech firm, my own apartment in the city, and enough savings to feel secure. But none of that matters when you're the least favorite child of Veronica Wagner. "Another emergency meeting?" Luca asked, peering over my cubicle wall. His concerned expression told me he remembered the last 3 family emergencies all too well. "You know my mother," I said, gathering my things. "Everything's an emergency when it comes to Ethan." The drive to my childhood home felt longer than usual. Each traffic light gave me another moment to remember how these meetings usually went. Last time, it was Ethan's failed restaurant venture. Before that, his investment opportunity in crypto. Every time Mom found a way to make his problems my responsibility. I pulled into the driveway, noting Ethan's new BMW parked next to Mom's Mercedes. Funny how he always had money for luxury cars, but never for his debts. "Robin, finally!" Mom rushed to the door, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the frame. "We've been waiting." "No, hello, no, how are you?" Classic Veronica. The living room looked exactly as it always had. Family photos dominated the walls, mostly of Ethan's achievements. My college graduation photo was tucked away in a corner, barely visible behind a vase. Ethan sat on the couch, head in his hands. "Hey, sis," he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "Let's cut to the chase," Mom said, sitting primly on her favorite armchair. "Your brother is in a bit of financial trouble." "A bit?" I interrupted, earning a sharp look. "How much this time?" $250,000, Ethan whispered. The room went silent. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're joking, right?" "This is serious, Robin," Mom snapped. "Your brother made some unfortunate betting decisions." "Gambling. Call it what it is, Mom. He was gambling. The important thing is," she continued as if I hadn't spoken, "we need to help him, as a family." I crossed my arms. "And by we, you mean me." "Well, you're the only one with the means right now," she said, her voice taking on that guilt-inducing tone I knew too well. "You're doing so well in your career, and family helps family." "What about your savings, your retirement fund?" Mom's face hardened. "Already gone. helping your brother through his previous situation? And my inheritance from Dad? I asked, already knowing the answer. Ethan finally looked up, his face red. Mom used it to cover the restaurant debts. My inheritance, not yours, mine. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. The money Dad specifically left for my future? Robin, dear, Mom leaned forward. You have to understand. Ethan needed it more at the time. And now, well, we need your help again. Your entire salary for the next 2 years should cover it. The audacity of her demand hit me like a physical blow. 2 years of my life, my hard work, my independence, all to enable my brother's addiction and my mother's enabling. No, I said, standing up. What do you mean, no? Mom's voice rose. This is your brother we're talking about. Do you want to see him hurt by loan sharks? Do you want his life destroyed? His life? I laughed again, bitter and cold. What about my life, Mom? When has anyone in this family ever worried about destroying my life? Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? You want 2 years of my salary to fix his gambling addiction, and I'm being dramatic? Ethan stood up, reaching for my arm. Sis, please, I promise this is the last time. I jerked away from his touch. That's what you said about the restaurant, and the crypto, and the sports betting last year. Robin Wagner. Mom's voice took on that authoritative tone that used to make me fold instantly. This is what family does. We help each other. I looked around the room, at my mother's stern face, at Ethan's desperate eyes, at all the photos celebrating his achievements while minimizing mine. Something inside me snapped. But instead of anger, I felt an odd sense of calm. You're right, Mom, I said, my voice eerily steady. Family does help family, and I think it's time we had a proper discussion about exactly how our family helps each other. The smile that spread across my face must have worried them, because both Mom and Ethan shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had no idea what was coming, but they were about to learn that the daughter they'd always underestimated had been playing a much longer game than they realized. You did what? Luca nearly spat out his coffee across his desk the next morning. 2 years of salary? Is she insane? I stirred my own coffee, watching the cream create perfect swirls. That's not even the craziest part. Want to know what she said when I mentioned my inheritance? The one your dad left specifically for you? She actually said, that money was put to better use helping your brother's future. I mimicked my mother's condescending tone. As if my future meant nothing. Luca leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. So, what's your play here? Please tell me you're not actually considering giving them the money. A small smile crept across my face. Remember that advice you gave me 3 years ago? About protecting my assets? When you first started making real money? He sat up straighter. Don't tell me you actually did it? I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Every joint venture Ethan started, every investment opportunity he brought to the family, I was there, quietly becoming a silent partner. Mom was so focused on him, she never bothered to read the fine print. Holy shit, Robin. I own 30% of that failed restaurant, 40% of his crypto investment company. And the best part? I slid my phone across the desk. I'm the majority shareholder in his current business ventures. Luca's eyes widened as he scrolled through the documents. This is brilliant and terrifying. Does anyone know? Just my Aunt Martina. She helped me set it all up. I took my phone back, tucking it safely away. She's the only one who ever saw Ethan for what he really is. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. We need to discuss this further. Dinner tonight? Look at this. I showed Luca the message. She's not giving up. Are you going? Oh, I'm going, but not for the reason she thinks. I stood up, straightening my blazer. I have a meeting with my financial advisor in an hour. Want to hear something funny? I've been making more money from Ethan's failed ventures than he has. How's that possible? Because I actually read contracts, and I understand business. I gathered my things. Every time he got a bailout from Mom, my shares increased in value. Every time he needed family help, I made sure my name was on the paperwork. Luca grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. Robin, be careful. This kind of revenge, it could blow up in your face. It's not revenge, I said, but we both knew that wasn't entirely true. It's protection, and maybe a little karma. Later that afternoon, I sat in my financial advisor's office, reviewing the documents one last time. Everything's in order, she confirmed. You have controlling interest in all 3 companies. Mr. Wagner can't make any major financial decisions without your approval. And the new business loan he applied for yesterday? She smiled. Denied. As per your instructions, any new funding requires your signature. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. Mom's really worried. Please come to dinner. We can work something out. I texted back. I'll be there. 7 p.m. Before heading to my parents' house, I made one more stop. Aunt Martina's cozy apartment always felt more like home than my mother's pristine mansion. You're really going through with this? She asked, handing me a cup of tea. They left me no choice, I said, taking a sip. Did you know Mom used my inheritance to cover his gambling debts? Martina's face darkened. Your father would be furious. That money was meant for your future, not Ethan's mistakes. Well, Dad's not here, I said, fighting back tears. But I am, and I'm done being the family backup plan. Your mother won't take this well, Martina warned. She's always protected Ethan, even when she shouldn't have. That's exactly why I had to do this. I stood up, checking the time. Someone has to show them that actions have consequences. Martina hugged me tightly. You're stronger than both of them combined, sweetheart. Give them hell. As I drove to my mother's house for the second time in 2 days, I thought about all the times I'd given in, all the times I'd played the dutiful daughter. The documents in my briefcase felt heavy with possibility. Tonight, everything would change. I parked behind Ethan's BMW again, noting the repo notice tucked under his windshield wiper. Right on schedule. Mom opened the door before I could knock, her smile strained. Robin, darling, I'm so glad you came to your senses. Actually, Mom, I cut her off, holding up my briefcase. I think it's time we reviewed some paperwork. All of us. The look of confusion on her face was just the beginning. By the end of tonight, they'd understand exactly who they'd been underestimating all these years. I spread the documents across the dining room table, the same table where Mom used to help Ethan with his homework while sending me to study alone in my room. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. What's all this? Mom asked, her perfectly plucked eyebrows drawing together as she scanned the papers. Remember Ethan's restaurant, the Golden Spoon? I pulled out the first set of documents, the one that failed spectacularly last year. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. What about it? Well, let's start with who actually owns it. I slid the partnership agreement across the table. You see this signature here? That's mine. 30% ownership. Mom snatched up the paper. That's impossible. Ethan handled all the paperwork. Did he? I smiled. Or did he just sign whatever was put in front of him, like always? You tricked me? Ethan's face flushed red. No, dear brother. I invested in you, just like family does. I pulled out another document. And here's the crypto investment company. 40% ownership. Ring any bells? Mom's hands were shaking as she reached for the papers. This can't be legal. Oh, it's completely legal. Every signature, every document, every transaction, all perfectly legitimate. I just made sure my name was on everything while you were both so busy throwing good money after bad. But where did you get the money to invest? Ethan stammered. Unlike you, I saved, I worked, and I watched. I leaned forward. Every time Mom bailed you out, my shares increased in value. Every time you needed family help, I made sure I was legally protected. You manipulative little, Mom started, but I cut her off. Careful, Mom, you haven't seen the best part yet. I pulled out the final document, the crown jewel of my collection. This is Ethan's current business portfolio. Notice anything interesting about the ownership structure? Their eyes scanned the document, and I watched as realization dawned on their faces. 51%? Ethan whispered. You own 51% of my companies? Controlling interest, I corrected, which means no more loans, no more bailouts, no more gambling with family money without my approval. Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. You planned this, all of it. You've been planning this for years. 3 years to be exact. Since the day you took my inheritance, money Dad left specifically for me, and used it to cover Ethan's gambling debts. We needed that money, Ethan protested. No, you wanted that money. There's a difference. I gathered the documents back into my briefcase. And now about that 2-year salary demand. You heartless girl, Mom spat. Your brother needs help. Yes, he does. Real help. Not enablers who throw money at his addiction. I turned to Ethan. You want to know what happens next? You're going to rehab. Real rehab. Not that weekend retreat spa Mom sent you to last time. You can't make me... Actually, I can. As majority shareholder, I can have you removed from all company operations if you're deemed unfit to serve. Your choice, rehab or unemployment. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom sank back into her chair, her perfectly maintained facade crumbling. What do you want? She finally asked, her voice small. I want what I've always wanted, respect, recognition, and my inheritance back. I stood up. You have 24 hours to transfer the remaining funds back to my account. Every penny you took. That money's gone, Ethan said quietly. Then you'll take out a loan to repay it. Both of you. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Ethan? That repo notice on your BMW? That's real. Maybe start with a more practical car next time. You're destroying this family, Mom called after me. I paused at the door. No, Mom, you did that years ago. I'm just making sure I don't go down with the ship. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Martina. How did it go? I typed back, Phase 1 complete. They know. Another buzz. Proud of you, sweetheart. Your dad would be too. Sitting in my car, I watched through the window as Mom and Ethan argued, their gestures becoming more animated by the second. For the first time in years, I felt light, free from the weight of their expectations and manipulations. My phone buzzed one more time. Luca, you okay? Better than okay, I replied. But tomorrow's gonna be interesting. Because tomorrow, when they realized I'd frozen all of Ethan's business accounts pending a full audit, the real fireworks would begin. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. The calls started at 6 a.m. First Mom, then Ethan, then Mom again. By the time I reached my office, I had 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. Your brother can't access any of his accounts. Mom's voice screeched through my phone when I finally answered. This is ridiculous, Robin. Stop this childish behavior immediately. Childish? I kept my voice level. Like gambling away hundreds of thousands of dollars? Or maybe like stealing your daughter's inheritance? We need to meet, now. I'm busy, I said, watching Luca wave frantically from my office doorway. I have a meeting with the auditors in 10 minutes. Auditors? Her voice went up an octave. What auditors? The ones reviewing all of Ethan's business transactions for the past 3 years. standard procedure when there's suspected financial mismanagement. The line went dead. I looked up at Luca, who was practically bouncing with news. "You're not going to believe this," he said, closing my office door. "The auditors found something big, really big." Before he could continue, my office phone rang, the front desk. "Ms. Robin, your brother is here. He's quite insistent about seeing you." I could hear Ethan's raised voice in the background. "Tell him I'll be down in 5 minutes." Luca grabbed my arm. "You need to see this first." He handed me a folder. "Your brother wasn't just gambling with his own money." The documents inside made my blood run cold. Bank transfers, forged signatures, shell companies, all leading back to one thing. Ethan had been embezzling from his own businesses. "He was using company funds to gamble?" I whispered. "Worse, he was using them to pay off other gambling debts, then gambling with the profits to try to cover the holes." Luca tapped the papers. "This is federal crime territory." The elevator dinged, and Ethan burst through the office doors, his face red with anger. "What the hell are you doing to me?" "Funny," I said, holding up the folder. "I was about to ask you the same thing." His face went from red to white in seconds. "Where did you get those?" "The auditors work fast when they find evidence of fraud." I stood up, matching his intensity. "Want to explain why your signature and Mom's appear on documents neither of you were authorized to sign?" "You don't understand," he stammered. "I was going to pay it back. I just needed one big win." "Get out of my office," I cut him off. "Go home, talk to Mom, and for God's sake, get a lawyer." "You wouldn't," he whispered. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Was it family when you forged my signature to access business accounts? Was it family when you and Mom stole my inheritance?" "Please, Robin," his voice cracked. "They'll put me in jail. Maybe that's where you need to be." I pressed the security button under my desk. "You have 24 hours to come clean to Mom about everything. After that, the auditor's report goes to the FBI." As security led him away, my phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Martina. "Your mother just called me, hysterical. What happened?" "Ethan's been embezzling," I typed back. "It's worse than we thought." Her response was immediate. "Come over after work. You need to hear something." The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. My mother left 17 more voicemails, each more desperate than the last. By the time I reached Aunt Martina's apartment, I was emotionally exhausted. "Sit down," she said as soon as I walked in. "There's something you need to know about your inheritance." She pulled out an old envelope from her desk drawer. "Your father left this with me before he died. I was supposed to give it to you if things ever got complicated." Inside was a letter and another set of documents. As I read, my hands started shaking. "Dad knew?" I looked up at Martina. "He knew Mom was taking money from my accounts even before he died?" Martina nodded. "That's why he set up the secret trust in your name. The inheritance your mother thought she took? That was just the surface. The real money has been growing in a separate account all this time." I stared at the bank statements. The numbers made me dizzy. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Your father made me promise to wait until you were ready, until you showed you could stand up to them on your own." She smiled sadly. "I'd say that time is now." My phone buzzed again. "Mom, we need to talk. Your brother told me everything. Please come home." I showed the message to Martina, who squeezed my hand. "Go, show them who you really are. Show them what Robert's daughter is made of." I stood up, clutching my father's letter. "They're not going to like what comes next." "No," Martina agreed, "but they're going to respect it." The house was dark except for the dining room light when I arrived. Mom sat at the head of the table, her usual perfect posture replaced by a defeated slump. Ethan paced behind her, running his hands through his disheveled hair. Sit down, Mom said quietly. No demands, no accusations, just exhaustion. I placed Dad's letter on the table between us. Before we start, read this. Mom's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Her face grew paler with each line she read. Robert knew, she whispered, all this time? Dad knew everything, I said, watching her crumple in on herself. The money you took from my college fund when I was 16, the loans you made from my accounts during college, he tracked every penny. Ethan stopped pacing. What's she talking about, Mom? Your mother has been stealing from me since before Dad died, I explained. That's why he set up the secret trust fund, the one she couldn't touch. I did it for you, Mom suddenly burst out, slamming her hands on the table. Everything I did was to give you opportunities, Ethan. By stealing from me? I kept my voice steady. By taking everything Dad left for my future? You were always so capable, so independent, she said, as if that justified everything. Ethan needed more support. Stop. Ethan's voice cracked. Just stop, Mom. He turned to me. How bad is it? The audit? I pulled out my tablet and pulled up the preliminary findings. $3 million in embezzled funds, false documents, forged signatures, money laundering through offshore accounts. Mom's face went ashen. $3 million? And that's just what they've found so far. I looked at Ethan. Want to tell her about the loan sharks? Or should I? Loan sharks? Mom's head snapped toward Ethan. You said it was just casino debt. They're going to kill me, Ethan whispered, sinking into a chair. I owe them $500,000 by the end of the month. The room fell silent. I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, the one Dad used to wind every Sunday morning. There's a way out, I finally said, but you both have to agree to my terms. Anything, Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. First, you're going to rehab, a real facility, minimum 6 months. I held up my hand when he tried to protest. Non-negotiable. Second, Mom signs over her power of attorney to me until all debts are settled. Never. Mom stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. Then, I walk away right now. The audit goes to the FBI, and Ethan faces federal charges. I stood up too. Your choice. You would send your own brother to prison? Mom's voice shook with rage. You would let your son die over your pride? I shot back. Because that's what those loan sharks will do if we don't fix this. Ethan started crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen so many times before, but real, broken sobs. I'll do it. The rehab. Whatever you want. Just please help me. Mom stared at him for a long moment, then at the letter from Dad still lying on the table. Something in her seemed to break. What are your other terms? She asked quietly. You sell the house, downsize to something reasonable. All your assets go into a trust I'll manage. I pulled out the papers I'd had drawn up. You'll both receive living allowances, but no direct access to funds. You want to put us on an allowance? Like children? Mom's face flushed. No, like addicts, because that's what you both are. Ethan with gambling, you with enabling him. How dare you? Mom! Ethan interrupted. She's right. The silence that followed was heavy with decades of dysfunction. Mom picked up her chair and sat down heavily. The trust fund Dad set up, she finally said. How much? Enough to save Ethan's life and keep you comfortable, if you agree to my terms. I spread the documents in front of them. Sign now or I walk. Ethan grabbed a pen immediately. Mom stared at the papers for what felt like hours before slowly reaching for one. Your father would be ashamed of me, she whispered as she signed. No, I said, gathering the documents. Dad would be proud that we're finally fixing this, all of us. As I stood to leave, Ethan grabbed my hand. Why are you helping me? After everything, I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the golden child who'd tormented my childhood, but a broken man who needed help. Because that's what family does, I said, the right way. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Aunt Martina, how did it go? I looked back at the house, at Mom and Ethan still sitting in the dining room light, looking small and lost. They signed, I typed back. The real work begins tomorrow. You're doing the right thing, she responded. I wasn't so sure about that, but I was doing the necessary thing. Sometimes those have to be the same. The rehab facility looked more like a resort than a treatment center, but its success rates were among the highest in the country. I watched as Ethan dragged his feet toward the entrance, Mom hovering anxiously beside him. You can't come in with him, I reminded her. That's part of the program. But he needs to do this alone, I cut her off. That's the point. The intake counselor, Sarah, met us at the door. Mr. Ethan, we're ready for you. Ethan turned to Mom, his face pale. What if I can't do this? You can, I said before Mom could respond. Because you have to. As Sarah led him away, Mom collapsed onto a nearby bench, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. What do we do now? Now, we clean up your mess. I checked my phone. The realtor is meeting us at the house in an hour. You're really making me sell it? Her voice cracked. All my memories are just things, Mom. Things we're selling to keep your son alive. I helped her up. Unless you have another way to pay off those loan sharks. The drive home was silent. The realtor, Jessica, was already waiting when we arrived. Beautiful property, she said, scrolling through comparable listings on her tablet. In this market, we should be able to get around $2 million. Mom made a choking sound. But we paid $3 million 5 years ago. And you took out 2 mortgages since then, I reminded her, which we need to pay off. Jessica walked us through the house, pointing out updates needed to make it market ready. Mom flinched with each suggestion, each criticism of her perfect home. The master bathroom needs a complete remodel, Jessica noted, and these kitchen appliances are outdated. Those appliances cost $30,000, Mom protested. 5 years ago, Jessica said kindly. Tastes change. My phone buzzed. A text from the audit team. Found something else. Urgent. Start without me, I told Jessica. I need to take this. In the home office, Dad's old sanctuary, I dialed the auditor's number. We found irregularities in your mother's personal accounts, he said without preamble. Large transfers to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. My stomach dropped. How large? Close to $4 million over the past 3 years. I gripped the desk for support. Send me everything. Back in the kitchen, Mom was arguing with Jessica about the value of her imported marble countertops. I waited until Jessica stepped outside to take a call. Want to tell me about the Cayman Islands account? I asked quietly. Mom froze. How did you? The audit covered everything, Mom, not just Ethan's mess. I pulled up the transfer records on my phone. $4 million? Where did it even come from? She sank into a kitchen chair. Your father's life insurance policy. The one you said barely covered the funeral expenses? I was protecting myself, she burst out. I knew this day would come, when Ethan's problems would become too big. I needed a safety net. While you let him destroy himself, my voice rose. While you stole my inheritance to enable him? You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I forwarded the records to my lawyer. The trust agreement you signed yesterday. It covers all your assets, including hidden ones. You can't. I can, and I will. I walked to the door and waved Jessica back in. Either you transfer that money back by tomorrow, or I add financial fraud to the list of things we're dealing with. You would send your own mother to prison? She tried to sound outraged, but fear crept into her voice. Ask yourself what Dad would do, I said. Better yet, read his letter again. Jessica rejoined us, oblivious to the tension. So, shall we discuss listing strategies? Yes, I said, watching Mom's carefully maintained facade crumble. And Mom's gonna tell you about all the upgrades needed to make this place sellable, aren't you, Mom? She nodded weakly, her hands shaking as she reached for her water glass. My phone buzzed again, this time from the rehab center, a photo of Ethan in his new room, looking terrified but determined. Below it, a message from his counselor. He's agreed to the full program, including family therapy. I showed Mom the photo. This is what matters now, not the house, not the money. Fixing our family. She stared at Ethan's image, tears finally breaking through her perfect makeup. I've made such a mess of everything. Yes, I agreed. But for the first time, you're going to help clean it up. Jessica cleared her throat awkwardly. Should I come back another time? No, Mom said, straightening her shoulders. Let's do this, all of it. For the first time since this started, I saw a glimpse of the mother I remembered from before Dad died, before money and status consumed her. Maybe there was hope for both of them after all. 3 months into Ethan's rehab, I sat across from him in the facility's visiting area. The change was striking. His eyes were clear, his hands steady, his designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a t-shirt. The loan sharks are taken care of, I said, pushing a folder across the table. All debts settled. He opened it cautiously. How? Mom's Cayman account covered most of it. The house sale will handle the rest. And Mom? He looked up. How's she doing in the apartment? I thought about our mother's new 2-bedroom apartment, a far cry from her mansion, but still more than comfortable. She's adjusting. Aunt Martina visits her daily. She won't answer my calls, he said quietly. Part of your recovery is her recovery too. She needs to learn not to enable. A counselor approached our table. Ethan, your group session starts in 5 minutes. He nodded, then turned back to me. There's something else you need to know about Dad's company. My heart stopped. What about it? Mom didn't just take your inheritance. She and we sold Dad's shares right after he died. The room seemed to tilt. Dad's company, his life's work, had been sold years ago to a larger corporation. We'd been told the board had voted him out. You did what? Mom convinced me it was the right thing to do. Said Dad would have wanted the money used to secure my future. He couldn't meet my eyes. We forged your signature on the sale documents. My hands clenched into fists. How much? 12 million. The number hung in the air between us. $12 million. My birthright, stolen by my own family. That's why you're telling me now? I kept my voice steady. Because you know I'll find it in the audit? He nodded miserably. I'm trying to make amends. Step 9, you know? Where's the money now? Gone. Gambling, bad investments, Mom's shopping addiction. He stood up as the counselor returned. I'm sorry, Robin, for everything. I waited until he left before pulling out my phone and calling Luca. I need you to find something, I said when he answered. The sale documents for Dad's company, all of them. That was years ago. They forged my signature. Find them. An hour later, I sat in Mom's new apartment, watching her hands shake as she poured tea into delicate cups she'd saved from the house sale. $12 million, I said without preamble. Dad's company. The teacup clattered against its saucer. Ethan told you. Were you ever going to? What difference does it make now? She tried to sound dismissive, but fear crept into her voice. The money's gone. The difference, I pulled out my phone and played a recording, is that forgery and fraud have no statute of limitations in corporate sales. Mom's face went white as she heard her own voice from years ago, instructing Ethan how to copy my signature. "Where did you get that?" Ethan recorded everything back then. Insurance, he called it. I stopped the playback. He gave me all the recordings last week, part of his recovery program. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Actually, I already did." I showed her the email I'd sent to my lawyer. "The SEC will be investigating the sale, every document, every transaction, every forged signature. They'll put me in prison." Her teacup crashed to the floor. "Maybe, or maybe we make a deal." I leaned forward. "Sign over everything that's left, every account, every asset, everything you've hidden. In return, I'll tell them you cooperated fully." "You're blackmailing your own mother? I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing, finally." She stared at the broken teacup, watching the dark liquid seep into her new carpet. "Your father would be so disappointed in me." "Dad's not here because you and Ethan couldn't wait to sell off his legacy." My phone buzzed. A message from Ethan's counselor. "He's had a breakthrough. Wants to make full restitution." "Ethan's trying to change," I told Mom. "Are you?" She was quiet for a long moment, then walked to her desk and pulled out a thick envelope. "These are all my accounts, everything I have left, even the ones you don't know about." I took the envelope, feeling its weight. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired," she whispered. "Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending we're still the family we used to be." As I stood to leave, she grabbed my hand. "Will you ever forgive me?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the manipulative woman who'd orchestrated so much pain, but a broken mother who'd lost her way. "That depends," I said, "on what you do next." Outside, the sun was setting over the city. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Martina. "Your father would be proud of you today." I wasn't so sure about that, but for the first time in years, I was proud of myself. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee from the small cafe where I sat with Ethan, watching people hurry past on their way to work. His 6 months in rehab had ended yesterday, and this was our first real conversation as equals. "The SEC investigation is complete," I said, sliding a document across the table. "They're not pressing charges." Ethan's shoulders sagged with relief. "And Mom?" "She cooperated fully, returned everything she could." I stirred my coffee. "The restitution payments will take years, but at least we're on the right path." "I found a job," he said quietly. "Nothing fancy, just bookkeeping at a small firm. They know about my past." "Honest work," I nodded. "Dad would like that. I've been thinking about him a lot." Ethan pulled something from his pocket, Dad's old pocket watch. "Found this when I was helping Mom move. Remember how he used to let us wind it on Sundays?" "You first, then me," I smiled. "He said it taught us patience." The watch ticked steadily between us, marking time in the same way it had during Sunday breakfasts and family meetings, before everything went wrong. "I met with the board of Dad's old company yesterday," I said, "showed them the evidence of fraud in the sale." Ethan's hand trembled as he reached for his water. "And they're restructuring, offering to sell back 30% of the shares at current market value." I pulled out another document. "Using what's left of Mom's Cayman account and Dad's trust fund, we can buy back in." "We?" "The shares would be split. You, me, and a trust for Mom's care." I watched his reaction carefully. "But you'd have no direct control. Not yet." He nodded, understanding the conditions. "I wouldn't trust me either." "It's not about trust anymore. It's about earning things back. The right way." My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Apartment is ready for the therapy session. Please come." "Family therapy starts today," I told Ethan. "You ready?" "No," he admitted, "but I'm going anyway." Mom's apartment had changed since my last visit. Gone were the expensive artworks and antiques, replaced by simple, comfortable furniture. She'd even hung Dad's old family photos, the real ones, not the staged portraits she used to prefer. "I made coffee," she said as we entered. Real coffee, not that imported stuff I used to insist on. The therapist, Dr. Marshall, arrived right on time. We sat in a circle, the pocket watch ticking on the coffee table between us. "Let's talk about moving forward," Dr. Marshall began, "about rebuilding trust." "I have something to say first," Mom interrupted. She pulled out an envelope. "This is my last secret, the insurance policy I took out on the house before we sold it. I want you to have it, Robin. It's not much, but it's a start." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "This isn't about money anymore." "I know," she whispered. "It's about saying I'm sorry, really sorry." "And you, Ethan?" Dr. Marshall prompted. "I'm sorry for more than I can ever say." He picked up the pocket watch. "But mostly, I'm sorry I forgot who we were supposed to be, who Dad raised us to be." The watch ticked steadily, filling the silence. "The board meeting is tomorrow," I said finally, "to finalize the share purchase. You can both come if you want." "Really?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. "As observers only," I clarified. "But yes, it's time we faced things together." Dr. Marshall smiled. "That's a significant step. How does it feel?" "Terrifying," Ethan admitted. "Right," Mom added. "Necessary," I said. After the session, we stood in Mom's small kitchen, drinking coffee from ordinary mugs instead of her old bone china. "Dad's office," Ethan said suddenly. "In the new company setup. Who gets it?" "Nobody," I replied. "We're turning it into a conference room, named after him." Mom touched the pocket watch, now sitting on the counter. "He would like that. No pedestals, no shrines, just work and family." "Speaking of work," Ethan set down his mug. "I should go. First day at the new job tomorrow." As he headed for the door, I called after him, "Take the watch." He turned back, surprised. "But you should have it." "You need it more right now," I said, "to remember who you're becoming." After he left, Mom touched my arm. "Are we going to be okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone trying to change, someone who finally understood the difference between enabling and loving. "We're going to be different," I said, "and that's a start." Outside, the autumn wind scattered leaves across the sidewalk. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Martina. "Dinner tonight?" "Yes," I replied, "and bring the old photo albums. It's time to remember who we were, to become who we should be." Sometimes the hardest part of revenge isn't executing it, it's knowing when to let it go.
I found out my father died through a Facebook post. Not even his obituary, just some random comment offering condolences to my half-sister Rosalind. 3 hours of frantic Googling later, I discovered he'd been dead for 2 days, and his funeral was tomorrow morning. My name is Sophia, and my father erased me from his life when I was 12. Now, 20 years later, he'd managed to erase me from his death too. My hand shook as I dialed Ria's number. She picked up on the second ring. "He's dead," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "The great Ira Owens is dead, and they didn't even bother to tell me." "Oh my God, Soph!" Ria's voice softened. "Are you okay?" "I'm fantastic." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "They're having this big fancy funeral at St. Michael's tomorrow. Everyone who's anyone will be there. Everyone except his firstborn daughter." "Those bastards?" Ria paused. "What are you going to do?" I stared at my laptop screen, at the sleek funeral announcement posted by Wellington & Sons Funeral Home. "Beloved husband, father, and pillar of the community," it read. What a joke. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to crash my father's funeral. Sophia, don't try to talk me out of this. I closed my laptop with more force than necessary. 20 years of pretending I don't exist. 20 years of watching him play perfect daddy to Rosalind in August, while I got nothing. Not even a birthday card. "I'm not trying to talk you out of it," Ria said. "I'm coming with you." That stopped me short. "What?" "You shouldn't have to face this alone. I'll pick you up at 9. I felt tears prick at my eyes. "Thanks, Ria." After hanging up, I paced my apartment, unable to sit still. My phone buzzed. A text from Theo, my friend who worked as a PI. "Heard about your dad. Need anything?" I typed back quickly. "Info. Everything you can find about his business dealings in the last 20 years. "On it," came the immediate response. "But Soph, what's your endgame here?" I walked to my bedroom window, looking out at the city lights. What was my endgame? The truth was, I didn't know exactly. But I knew I couldn't let them bury him tomorrow with everyone thinking he was some kind of saint. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification. More condolences on the Wellington and Sons website. I scrolled through them, recognizing names from my childhood. Daniel Perry, Dad's business partner, had written a touching tribute about their 30-year friendship. Mary, my father's second wife, had posted something sickeningly sweet about her beloved husband. The rage built inside me as I read each message. Every single one painted a picture of a man I didn't recognize. A loving father, a devoted husband, a generous friend. I grabbed my keys and headed out, needing air. The night was cool, and the streets were quiet. Outside a corner store, I stopped and called the one person who might understand. "Mom? Sophia? It's late, honey. Is everything okay?" "Dad's dead." The words came out in a rush. "They're having the funeral tomorrow, and they didn't tell us." A long silence followed. When Mom spoke again, her voice was tight. "Are you surprised?" "No." I kicked at a pebble on the sidewalk. "I'm going to the funeral." "Sophia, I have to, Mom. I can't let them pretend anymore. I can't let them bury all his lies with him." She sighed. "Just be careful. Your father," she caught herself. "Ira had powerful friends." "I know." I looked up at the stars, barely visible through the city's light pollution. "But I'm not that scared little girl anymore, and I'm done being invisible." When I got home, I pulled out the one photo I had kept of him, taken on my 10th birthday. We were both smiling at the camera, his hand on my shoulder. 2 years later, he walked out on us, married Mary, and started a new perfect family. The smiling man in the photo disappeared, replaced by someone who could look right through me if we passed on the street. I placed the photo face down on my desk and opened my laptop again. Time to do some research of my own. Tomorrow, they'd all be there. Mary, Rosalind, August, Daniel, and all the others who helped maintain my father's carefully constructed facade. Tomorrow, they'd learn that karma doesn't care about perfect reputations or carefully maintained lies. Tomorrow, they'd learn that the daughter they tried to forget hadn't forgotten them. I cracked my knuckles and started typing. The funeral wasn't until 10 a.m. I had all night to prepare. St. Michael's Church loomed before me, its stone facade a monument to old money and older secrets. Ria squeezed my hand as we watched the mourners file in, all dressed in expensive black, all wearing masks of solemn grief. "There's still time to turn back," she whispered. I straightened my black dress. Simple, elegant, and probably worth less than the shoes on any of these people's feet. "No, there isn't." We slipped in through the side entrance, finding seats near the back. The church was packed, just as I'd expected. My father always did know how to draw a crowd. Then I saw them, my replacement family. Mary sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Beside her, Rosalind looked like a fashion magazine's version of grief in her designer morning wear. August, my half-brother, stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. "Jesus," Ria muttered. "They really do look perfect, don't they?" That's the point." I watched as Daniel Perry, looking distinguished in his tailored suit, leaned over to whisper something to Mary. "It's all for show." The organ began to play, and everyone rose. The The service started with all the pomp and circumstance money could buy. A string quartet played my father's favorite classical pieces. Important people stood up to share carefully crafted memories of a man they never truly knew. Ira was more than a business partner, Daniel said from the pulpit, his voice thick with emotion. He was a brother to me, a man of integrity, of vision. I dug my nails into my palms, fighting the urge to scream. Rhea must have noticed because she grabbed my wrist. "Breathe," she whispered. "Just breathe." The eulogies continued. A senator spoke about my father's contributions to the community. A charity director praised his generosity. Each word was another brick in the wall of lies they'd built around him. Finally, Mary stood up, clutching a piece of paper. "Before I share my memories of my beloved husband," she began, her voice wavering perfectly, "I'd like to thank you all for coming. Ira would have been so touched to see how many lives he impacted." I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping against the floor echoed through the church. Heads turned. Whispers started. "I have a memory to share," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence. Mary froze mid-sentence. Rosalind's perfect composure cracked as she whipped around to stare at me. August looked confused, but Daniel's face went white. I walked down the aisle, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. The whispers grew louder. Some of the older attendees recognized me. I could tell by their sharp intakes of breath. "Who is that?" I heard someone whisper. "Is that... Oh my God, that's his daughter. The first one." I reached the front of the church and turned to face the congregation. Mary had backed away from the pulpit, her hand pressed to her throat. "My name is Sophia," I announced. "Though I doubt many of you remember me. I'm Ira's daughter, his first daughter, the one he erased from his life 20 years ago." The whispers turned to murmurs. Rosalind stood up, her face flushed. "This is inappropriate." "Inappropriate?" I laughed. "You know what's inappropriate? Not telling your father's child that he died. Not including her in his obituary. Pretending she doesn't exist for 20 years. "Security," Mary called out weakly. "Please, don't bother." I pulled out my phone. "I have something you all need to hear. Something about the man you're all here to celebrate." Daniel stepped forward, his face urgent. "Sophia, please." "What's wrong, Daniel? Worried about what I might say?" I met his eyes and he flinched. "Worried about what I might know?" The murmurs grew louder. I could see uncertainty spreading through the crowd like ripples in a pond. August was staring at me with a mixture of shock and curiosity. Rosalind looked like she might be sick. "This is my father's funeral," Mary said, finding her voice. "How dare you? How dare I?" I turned to face her. "How dare you pretend to be the grieving widow when you helped him abandon his first family? How dare you act like he was some kind of saint when you know exactly what kind of man he really was?" A security guard appeared at the side door. I knew my time was running out, but I'd accomplished what I came for. The cracks were showing in their perfect facade. "I'll go," I said, holding up my hands. "But this isn't over. The truth about Ira is going to come out piece by piece, and none of you can stop it." As I walked back down the aisle, head held high, I caught a glimpse of myself in one of the church's stained glass windows. I looked different than the scared little girl in that birthday photo. I looked strong, determined. Outside, Rhea was waiting by the car, her face worried. "Did you do what you needed to do?" I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "No, but I've started." The morning after the funeral, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Local news outlets wanted statements. Old family friends suddenly remembered I existed. But the message that caught my attention came from Theo. "Found something. Meet me at Carlo's Coffee, now." I arrived to find Theo already seated in a corner booth, his laptop open and a stack of papers beside him. His tie was loose, and he looked like he hadn't slept. "You look terrible," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "You should see what I found." He pushed a manila folder toward me. "Your father's company? It's built on sand." I opened the folder and started reading. Numbers swam before my eyes. Bank transfers, shell companies, suspicious investments. What am I looking at? 20 years of creative accounting. Theo leaned forward. And that's just the start. Your father and Daniel were running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. They were, well, isn't this cozy? We both looked up. Daniel stood there, coffee in hand, trying to look casual but failing miserably. His eyes darted to the papers spread across our table. Mind if I join you? Without waiting for an answer, he sat down next to me, forcing me to scoot over. Actually, we do mind, I said, but he ignored me. That was quite a show you put on yesterday, he said, stirring his coffee. Mary's beside herself. Rosalind had to take anxiety medication. Is that what you wanted? What I want is the truth, I said. And looking at these papers, it seems like you might be able to help with that. Daniel's stirring stopped. I don't know what you think you've found. Wire transfers to offshore accounts? Theo interrupted. Shell companies in the Caymans? Should I go on? The color drained from Daniel's face. Who exactly are you? Someone who's very good at finding things people try to hide, Theo replied with a smile. Daniel's friendly facade cracked. Listen to me very carefully, he said, his voice low. You're playing with fire. Your father. My father is dead, I cut in. He can't protect you anymore. A muscle twitched in Daniel's jaw. You have no idea what you're doing. There are people involved, powerful people. Walk away now while you still can. Or what? I leaned closer. You'll erase me too? Sorry, Daniel, but that's already been done. I have nothing left to lose. He stood up abruptly, his coffee forgotten. This is your last warning, Sophia. For your own good, let it go. After he left, Theo whistled low. Well, that was dramatic. He's scared, I said, watching Daniel's retreating back through the window. Good. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. It was August. Can we meet, alone? I showed the message to Theo. Think it's a trap? Only one way to find out. He started gathering the papers. But maybe meet somewhere public, and let me run a background check first. 2 hours later, I sat in a busy park, watching August approach. He looked different outside the church, younger, less polished. He sat down beside me on the bench, keeping his distance. I didn't know about you, he said without preamble. Not really. Dad mentioned once that he had another family, but... He trailed off, looking lost. But it was easier not to ask questions? He nodded, looking ashamed. After yesterday, I started digging. Found old photos, news articles about Dad's first marriage, about you. And I think... He took a deep breath. I think maybe everything I knew about my father was a lie. A jogger passed by. Children laughed on the playground nearby. Normal life continuing while August's world unraveled, just like mine had 20 years ago. This morning, he continued, I overheard Mom and Daniel arguing. They were talking about accounts that needed to be moved, about people who needed to be handled. They didn't know I was listening, but now you're scared. I finished for him. He nodded again. What do you know about Dad's business? Enough to bring it all down. I studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. The question is, whose side are you on? August was quiet for a long moment, watching the children on the playground. I always wondered why Rosalind was Dad's favorite, he said finally. Why she was getting the company, even though I'm the one with the business degree. Now I'm wondering if maybe she knows things too. Help me, I said. Help me expose the truth. All of it. He turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw something of myself in his face. That same determination, that same need for truth. Okay, he said, but we have to be careful. Daniel, he's not just Dad's partner, he's dangerous. I thought about the papers Theo had found, about Daniel's threats in the coffee shop. I'm counting on it, I said. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Mary's house was exactly as I remembered it from the society page photos, a sprawling mansion that screamed old money and careful cultivation. I sat in my car across the street, watching the security guard make his rounds. My phone buzzed. August. Gate code is 4891. Mom's in her study. Rosalind's out. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. The gate opened smoothly, with August's code, and I walked up the manicured path like I belonged there. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house smelled of lilies and lemon polish. Family photos lined the walls, perfect moments captured in expensive frames. I wasn't in any of them. Who let you in? Mary's voice cut through the silence. She stood at the top of the stairs, gripping the banister. Hello, Mary. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Her perfectly manicured hand trembled. Get out before I call the police. Call them, I said, climbing the stairs. I'm sure they'd be very interested in what I have to say about your husband's business practices. That stopped her. You're bluffing. I reached the top of the stairs and pulled out my phone, showing her photos of the documents Theo had found. Want to bet your comfortable life on that? Her face went pale. My study, now. The study was all dark wood and leather, reeking of power and privilege. Mary closed the door behind us and poured herself a drink with shaking hands. What do you want? The truth. I sat in one of the leather chairs. Let's start with why you helped my father abandon his first family. I didn't. She stopped when I held up my phone again. Fine. Your father was complicated. Try again. Mary downed her drink. He was in trouble, financial trouble, the kind that doesn't go away. I had family money, connections. He needed both. So you helped him fake bankruptcy, hide his assets, leave his first wife and daughter with nothing? I loved him, she whispered, and he promised things would be different with me, with our children. And were they? The door creaked open. Rosalind stood there, her face a mask of fury. What is she doing here? Asking the questions you should have asked years ago, I said, like why Dad was grooming you to take over the company instead of August. Because I earned it, Rosalind snapped. Because you were willing to look the other way, I corrected. Weren't you? Mary set down her glass hard. That's enough. No, it's not. I stood up. Daniel's been moving money around, covering tracks, but he can't hide everything. Do you even know what your husband was involved in? Stop it, Rosalind said, but her voice wavered. The FBI is already investigating, I lied, watching their reactions. Mary's hand flew to her throat. Rosalind swayed slightly. Bingo. You're lying, Mary said, but the fear in her eyes told me everything. Am I? Ask Daniel about Project Sunrise. Ask him about the offshore accounts. Ask him why he's been calling in favors all week. Rosalind grabbed the doorframe for support. Mom? Get out, Mary whispered. Get out of my house. I walked to the door but turned back. You know what's funny? Dad could have had it all. Legally, ethically. He was brilliant enough. But he chose this instead. And now, you're all going down with him. In the hallway, I heard raised voices from the study. Accusations, questions. The first cracks in their perfect world widening into chasms. August was waiting by my car. That bad? Worse. I showed him the recording app on my phone. But we got what we needed. They'll try to stop you, he said. Daniel has connections in the media, in the police. That's why we're not going to the media or the police. I smiled. Not yet. First, we're going to talk to the investors, the ones who trusted Dad with their life savings. They'll never believe you. They will when they see the proof, when they realize their money is gone. I got into my car. Want to come with me? He hesitated, looking back at the house. Through the study window, we could see Mary and Rosalind arguing, their shadows sharp against the curtains. They're not bad people, he said quietly. They're just lost. I know. I started the engine. That's why we're doing this. Sometimes you have to break something completely before you can rebuild it right. August got in the passenger seat. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Daniel's car turning into the driveway. Too late. The truth was already spreading, and no amount of damage control could stop it now. Where are we going? August asked. To see someone who's been waiting 20 years for answers. I turned onto the highway. It's time to visit my mom. Mom's apartment hadn't changed in 20 years. Same faded curtains, same worn furniture, same smell of coffee and lavender. August stood awkwardly by the door while Mom studied him from her armchair. You look like him, she finally said. Same eyes. I'm sorry, August blurted out. About everything. Mom waved away his apology. You were a child. Sit down, both of you. I made coffee. As we settled onto the couch, Theo burst through the door without knocking. His tie was completely gone now, and his hair stood on end. You need to see this, he said, opening his laptop on the coffee table. Daniel's been busy. We crowded around the screen. Bank statements, transfer records, emails, all dated within the last 48 hours. He's liquidating everything, Theo explained. Moving assets offshore. But he's getting sloppy. Look at this. He pulled up an email chain. My mother leaned forward, adjusting her reading glasses. Project Sunrise, she read. I remember that name. Your father mentioned it the week before he left us. It was their biggest scam, August said quietly. They promised investors triple returns through some revolutionary green energy technology. Except the technology didn't exist. Mom's hands started shaking. How much? Hundreds of millions, Theo said. And that's just what we can trace. My phone rang. Rosalind's number. I put it on speaker. Daniel's gone, she said without preamble. Her voice was thick with tears. He cleaned out the company accounts, all of them. Mom's having a breakdown. Where are you? I asked. Home, please. I know I don't deserve your help, but we're coming, I said, already standing. Don't talk to anyone else. Mom grabbed my arm. Be careful. Men like Daniel don't just disappear. They plan. I know. I hugged her tight. That's counting on it. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the mansion. The security guard was gone. The front door stood open. Inside, we found Rosalind in the kitchen, surrounded by scattered papers. Mary sat at the counter, staring blankly at a half-empty wine bottle. He took everything, Rosalind said, looking up at us with red eyes. The investments, the pension funds, even Mom's personal accounts. It's all gone. Not everything, Theo said, setting up his laptop. He left a trail, and I think I know where he's heading. How? Mary asked, her first word since we arrived. Because I found this. Theo turned the screen toward us. A private flight booked for tomorrow morning, to a country with no extradition treaty. We have to stop him, August said. No, I replied. We have to let him run. Everyone stared at me. Think about it, I continued. If he runs, he proves his guilt. No one can deny the truth anymore, and once he's gone. The insurance policies kick in, Rosalind finished, realization dawning. The investor protection clauses. Exactly, I pulled out my phone. But first, we need to make sure he actually runs. Rosalind, call him. Tell him you know everything, and you're going to the FBI. She hesitated, then dialed. The call went to voicemail. Daniel, she said, her voice breaking perfectly. How could you? The FBI is coming. They know everything about Project Sunrise. About Dad. About all of it. She hung up. Now we wait, Theo said, typing rapidly. I've got alerts set up on his accounts, his passport. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel himself. You won. Happy now? I showed it to the others. No, Daniel, I said aloud. But I'm getting there. We spent the next few hours going through papers, piecing together the full scope of my father's and Daniel's deceptions. Mary eventually broke her silence, filling in gaps, explaining connections. With each revelation, the perfect facade crumbled further. Around midnight, Theo's laptop pinged. Got him. He just checked in for his flight. Send everything to the FBI, I said. All of it. What about us? Mary asked quietly. What happens to us? I looked at her, at Rosalind, at August, at the broken remains of my father's second perfect family. You start over, I said. The right way this time. Together? August asked. Maybe. I stood up, gathering my things. But first, we have to face what's coming, all of us. As I drove home that night, I thought about the birthday photo of me and Dad, about the little girl who used to believe in him completely. She was gone, just like his perfect facade, just like Daniel into the night. But something new was emerging from the ashes. Something real. Something true. My phone buzzed. A group text from August to me and Rosalind. Family meeting tomorrow? I smiled and typed back one word. Yes. The conference room at Theo's office buzzed with tension. Investors filled every chair, their faces a mix of anger and fear. At the front of the room, a projector displayed the evidence we'd gathered. 2 decades of fraud laid bare in spreadsheets and emails. My entire retirement fund, a man in the front row said, his voice breaking. Everything we had. It's not all gone, I assured him. That's why we called you here. There's a way forward, but we need your help. Rosalind stood up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. What my sister says is true. As the legal heir to the company, I'm prepared to sign over everything. All assets, all holdings. To what end? Someone called out. Daniel's gone. The money's gone. Not all of it, Theo said, clicking to the next slide. We've traced about 40% of the funds. With the insurance policies and the company's remaining legitimate assets, we can recover close to 60% of your investments. A murmur ran through the room. August stepped forward. But we need you to do something first, he said. We need you to go public. All of you, tell your stories. Show the world what our father and Daniel did. The door opened, and Mary walked in, looking smaller without her usual polish. I'll start, she said. I knew. Not everything, but enough. I kept quiet to protect my children, my lifestyle. I was wrong. The room fell silent. Mrs. Owens, one of the investors said, do you understand what you're admitting to? I do. She straightened her shoulders. And I'm prepared to face the consequences. My phone buzzed. A message from Ria. Turn on the news, now. I grabbed the remote and switched on the wall-mounted TV. Daniel's face filled the screen, his private jet grounded on a runway in Dubai. The headline scrolled beneath. International manhunt. Business mogul caught in massive fraud scheme. They got him, August whispered. The investors erupted in questions and exclamations. I raised my hands for quiet. This is just the beginning, I said. The FBI will want statements from all of you. It won't be easy. The media will be relentless. But if we stand together— Why should we trust you? A woman interrupted. You're his daughter. Because I'm the daughter he abandoned, I replied. The one he tried to erase. And because I'm not asking you to trust me, I'm asking you to fight back. Rosalind pulled out a stack of papers. These are the documents surrendering my inheritance rights. I'm signing them now, in front of you all. As she signed, Mary stepped forward again. My personal assets will also be liquidated to help cover the losses. It won't be much, but— It's a start, the first investor said. Others nodded. The meeting lasted hours. People shared stories of how they'd trusted my father, how Daniel had charmed them with promises of impossible returns. Each story made the truth clearer. This wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal, about broken trust. As the last investor left, Theo got another alert on his laptop. FBI's here. They want to talk to all of us. Good, I said. Let's give them everything. Sophia, Mary called as I headed for the door. What you're doing? Thank you. I turned to face her. I'm not doing it for you. I know. She twisted her wedding ring. But you're saving my children anyway, saving all of us from living a lie. Before I could respond, 2 FBI agents entered the room. They looked exactly like you'd expect. Dark suits, serious faces. Ms. Owens? One asked, looking between me and Rosalind. That's both of us, I said. Where do you want to start? From the beginning, the agent replied, pulling out a recorder. Tell us everything. As we sat down to give our statements, I caught August's eye. He nodded slightly, a silent acknowledgement of how far we'd come. Rosalind was already talking, her voice steady as she detailed years of deception. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Mom. "Proud of you, baby. Give them hell." I took a deep breath and faced the agents. "It started 20 years ago," I began, "with a man who cared more about appearances than truth." The story poured out, not just mine, but all of ours. A story of greed and betrayal, of families broken and rebuilt, of truth finally breaking free from carefully constructed lies. Outside the conference room windows, the sun was setting on my father's empire. But something new was rising in its place. Something built on honesty, on accountability, on real connections. "Ready?" the agent asked, pen poised. "Ready," I replied. And I was. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters. 3 months had passed since Daniel's arrest, and today was the day everything would change. I adjusted my blazer and gripped Ria's hand as we pushed through the crowd. "Ms. Owens, is it true Daniel Perry has agreed to testify? What about the missing millions? Any comment on your father's role in the fraud?" Inside, the marble halls echoed with whispers and footsteps. We found August and Rosalind waiting by the courtroom doors, both looking like they hadn't slept. "Daniel's already inside," August said quietly. "He looks broken." "Good," I replied, but my voice lacked the venom I'd expected. The bailiff called us in. The courtroom was packed. Investors, reporters, curious onlookers. Mary sat in the front row, her designer clothes replaced by something simpler, more honest. Daniel stood as we entered, his expensive suit replaced by prison orange. Our eyes met briefly before he looked away. He seemed smaller somehow, diminished. "All rise," the bailiff announced. As the judge entered, I felt a shift in the air. This was it, the moment of truth. "Before we proceed with sentencing," the judge began, "Mr. Perry has requested to make a statement." Daniel shuffled to the podium. His hands shook as he unfolded a piece of paper. "I've spent my life building walls of lies," he said, his voice rough. "Ira and I, we started small. Just a few shortcuts, a few hidden accounts. But lies are like cancer. They spread. Before we knew it, we were trapped in our own deceptions." He looked up, directly at me. "Sophia was the first victim. Ira couldn't face her innocence, her truth. So we erased her, just like we erased everyone who threatened to expose us." The courtroom was silent now, hanging on every word. "The money's gone," he continued. "Most of it lost in bad investments we covered up with more fraud. But I've provided the FBI with everything. Every account, every transaction, every name, including names of people in this room who helped us." A murmur ran through the crowd. Several well-dressed men slipped out the back door. "Your Honor," Daniel's lawyer stood, "my client's cooperation should be considered in his sentencing." "Sit down," the judge ordered. She turned to Daniel. "Continue. There's nothing left to say except, I'm sorry. To everyone we hurt. To the families we destroyed. To Sophia, who had the courage to expose what we all wanted to hide." He sat down heavily. The judge shuffled her papers. "Mr. Perry, your cooperation is noted. However, the severity of your crimes—" She paused, looking over her glasses. 25 years, no possibility of parole?" The gavel cracked like thunder. As the bailiff led Daniel away, he stopped briefly beside me. "Your father would be proud," he whispered. "Not of what you exposed, of how strong you became." I watched him disappear through the side door, remembering the powerful man who'd threatened me in the coffee shop. Karma had finally caught up. Outside, the reporters swarmed again, but this time I was ready. "Yes, I'll make a statement," I announced. "Today isn't about revenge. It's about truth, about facing our mistakes and trying to make them right." Rosalind stepped up beside me. "The company is being restructured. All recovered assets will go to the victims of the fraud. My brother and I are starting over, the right way." And Mary Owens, someone called out. Is cooperating fully with authorities, August answered, and working to make amends. Later, at a small cafe away from the chaos, our unlikely family gathered. Mom had joined us, sitting between me and Rosalind, like it was the most natural thing in the world. What now? August asked, stirring his coffee. Now we rebuild, I said. Not just the company, everything. Together? Rosalind asked hesitantly. Mom reached across the table and took her hand. Together. My phone buzzed. A text from Theo. Found something in your dad's old files. Come by when you can. You need to see this. Everything okay? Rhea asked, noticing my expression. I looked around the table, at my mother's strength, at August's determination, at Rosalind's growing honesty, at the family we were building from the ashes of my father's lies. Yeah, I said, putting my phone away. Everything's exactly as it should be. The afternoon sun streamed through the cafe windows, casting long shadows. But for the first time in 20 years, I wasn't afraid of what those shadows might hide. The truth was out, justice was served, and tomorrow was a new day. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something real, something true, something that lasts. Theo's office was dark except for his desk lamp when I arrived. He sat staring at an old leather journal, his expression unreadable. Found this in a safety deposit box, he said as I sat down. Your father's personal diary. The key was hidden in Daniel's files. My hands trembled as I took the journal. The leather was soft, worn from years of use. Inside, my father's familiar handwriting filled page after page. Read the last entry, Theo said quietly. I flipped to the final page, dated just days before his death. Sophia was right all along. The truth always finds its way out. Daniel's getting sloppy, desperate. The house of cards is falling. Maybe it's better this way. My daughter, my first daughter, she's stronger than I ever was. She'll find this eventually. She'll understand why I kept her away from all of this. It wasn't to protect myself. It was to protect her from becoming like me. There's more, Theo said, sliding an envelope across the desk. This was with it. Inside was a bank statement and a letter. A separate account, untouched for 20 years, in my name. The balance made my head spin. He set this up the day he left, Theo explained. Never touched it. Never told anyone about it. My phone rang. Rosalind. You need to come to the house, she said without preamble. We found something in Dad's study. 20 minutes later, I stood in the study with Rosalind, August, and Mary. The wall safe stood open, revealing stacks of documents. Look at these, August said, spreading papers across the desk. Dad was documenting everything, every fraud, every lie, but also every legitimate deal, every real investment. He was building a roadmap, Rosalind realized, showing us how to fix it all. Mary picked up a photo from the safe, me at 12, just before he left. On the back, in his handwriting, the price of my sins. He never hung any photos of you, Mary said softly. But he kept this, in the safe with everything that mattered. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Come home, bring them all. We found Mom in her small kitchen, the table set for 6. The smell of her lasagna, the one she used to make for special occasions, filled the apartment. Sit, she commanded, all of you. As we ate, the walls between us crumbled further. Mary shared stories of my father's sleepless nights. August talked about catching him crying in his study. Rosalind admitted she'd found the photo of me years ago, but had been too scared to ask about it. He was a complicated man, Mom said, refilling wine glasses. Deeply flawed. But maybe, in his own broken way, he tried to protect the things he loved. Even if he did it all wrong. What do we do with all this? August asked. The journal, the documents, the account? We do what he couldn't, I said. We make it right. Not just the money, everything. The company, Rosalind added. We could rebuild it, legitimately this time. Together, August said. It wasn't a question anymore. Later, as everyone was leaving, Mary stopped me. "I found this too," she said, handing me a small box. Inside was my father's wedding ring from his marriage to Mom. "He kept it all these years," she said, "in his desk drawer. I think he wanted you to have it." I slipped the ring onto my thumb, too big for any other finger. It felt warm, heavy with history and meaning. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. After everyone left, I sat with Mom on her old couch, the journal open between us. We read together, filling in the gaps of 20 years, understanding finally blooming in the space between what was and what could be. "You did it, baby," Mom said, squeezing my hand. "You broke the cycle." I touched the ring on my thumb, thinking of the father I'd lost and the family I'd found, of truth and lies, of endings and beginnings. "No," I said, "we did it, all of us." Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, the pieces of our broken family were finally falling into place, not into the perfect picture my father had tried to create, but into something real, something true, something that would last. I opened my father's journal one last time, adding my own entry beneath his final words. "The truth didn't destroy us, Dad. It set us free." And for the first time since I'd seen that obituary online, I felt completely, utterly at peace.
I never planned on becoming wealthy. Growing up in a modest household where my mother counted every penny taught me the value of hard work and independence. But sitting here at my in-laws' mahogany dining table, watching my mother-in-law Vienna wave her diamond-studded hands while dismissing my career choices, I realized that sometimes the best revenge is simply waiting for the perfect moment. My name is Eleanor, and I'm what most people would call a part-time teacher. At least that's what my mother-in-law loves to remind everyone at these weekly family dinners. "Really, Eleanor, dear," Vienna says, dabbing her mouth with an embroidered napkin, "I don't understand why you insist on working those measly hours at that public school, when Curtis makes enough to support you both." I catch my husband's eye across the table, but he quickly looks down at his plate. Typical Curtis, always avoiding confrontation. "I enjoy teaching," I reply simply, taking a sip of wine. What I don't mention is the educational technology platform I built from scratch 5 years ago, now valued at 8 figures. Or the fact that those measly hours at school provide me with insights that keep my business innovative and growing. "Well," Vienna continues, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "we've been planning this wonderful family vacation to the Maldives. 3 weeks at a private resort. Judah's already made all the arrangements, haven't you, dear?" My father-in-law nods, barely looking up from his phone. "All set for next month." "Curtis will handle your portion of the expenses, of course," Vienna adds, shooting me a look that clearly suggests I couldn't possibly contribute. I feel my phone buzz in my pocket. Probably Madeline, my best friend and business partner, with updates about our latest expansion plans. But I keep my attention on the scene unfolding before me. "That's quite generous," I say, watching Curtis shift uncomfortably in his chair. "How much are we talking about?" "Oh, just 30,000 per couple," Vienna waves her hand dismissively. "A bargain, really, for what we're getting. Curtis already agreed it wouldn't be a problem." I nearly choke on my wine. Not because of the amount, that's pocket change compared to what my company brings in monthly, but because my dear husband hadn't bothered to mention this to me. "Curtis?" I turn to him, keeping my voice steady. "When did you agree to this?" He tugs at his collar, a nervous habit I've come to recognize all too well. "Mom mentioned it last week. I thought, well, we could make it work." "Make it work?" Vienna laughs. "Don't be modest, Curtis. You're doing wonderfully at the firm, and it's not like Eleanor's teacher's salary would have contributed much anyway." Sylvia, Curtis's sister, speaks up for the first time. "Mum, that's a bit harsh." "It's just the truth," Vienna insists. "Someone needs to say it. Eleanor could be doing so much more with her life instead of playing teacher part-time." I feel a smile tugging at my lips, but I suppress it. If they only knew about the meeting I had yesterday with potential investors, or the Forbes interview scheduled for next month. "You're right, Vienna," I say softly, watching surprise flash across her face. Someone does need to say the truth. Curtis looks up sharply, probably expecting me to spill everything. But I've learned that timing is everything, both in business and in life. The truth is, I continue, I need to excuse myself. I have some lesson plans to prepare for tomorrow. As I stand, Vienna's triumphant smirk tells me everything I need to know about what she thinks of me. Let her believe what she wants. Let them all believe what they want. Walking to my car, I finally check my phone. 3 messages from Madeline. Deal is done. They're offering double what we asked. Call me ASAP. This is huge. I start my car, thinking about Curtis and his family's vacation plans, about the joint account he has access to, which I've deliberately kept modest, about the separate account where I store the real fruits of my labor. My phone rings. It's Madeline again. I answer on Bluetooth as I pull out of the driveway. Eleanor, where have you been? This is going to change everything. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have all evening. Actually, Mad, I think everything's about to change anyway. Meet me for coffee. I have a story you won't believe. As I drive away from my in-laws' house, I can't help but think about how sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch out for. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing who you've been all along. The notification from my banking app came while I was grading papers at my favorite coffee shop. My hands trembled as I read it. Withdrawal, $65,000. Transaction approved. I immediately called Curtis. Hey, honey, he answered, his voice artificially cheerful. I was just about to call you. Were you? I cut him off. Before or after you emptied our joint account? The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Mum said it would be better to handle it quickly, he finally mumbled. To secure the reservations and... Stop. My voice was quiet but firm. Just stop, Curtis. You didn't even discuss this with me. Well, you were on board at dinner the other night. I caught Madeline's eye as she walked into the coffee shop, right on time for our meeting. Her smile faded when she saw my expression. Being polite to your mother is not the same as agreeing to spend our savings on her vacation fantasy, I said, gesturing for Madeline to sit down. We'll discuss this later. I hung up before he could respond. Madeline slid into the chair across from me, concern etched on her face. Spill it, she demanded, pushing my half-finished coffee aside and replacing it with a fresh one. What did that spineless husband of yours do now? I showed her my phone screen with the withdrawal notification. Her eyes widened. He didn't. He did. I took a sip of the fresh coffee. And you know what the worst part is? He didn't even try to hide it. He just assumed I'd go along with it. Like you always do, Madeline pointed out, then quickly raised her hands in surrender when I glared at her. Hey, I'm just saying what we both know. You've let them believe you're this passive, struggling teacher for years. It protected my business, I defended. You know how Vienna is. If she knew about the company, she'd try to sink her claws into it faster than she booked that vacation, Madeline finished. I know. But Elle, maybe it's time. My phone buzzed again, a message from Emery, my tech assistant. Major tech blog wants to feature our adaptive learning algorithm, time-sensitive, call ASAP. The universe has interesting timing, I murmured, showing Madeline the message. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with that look I knew meant trouble. You know what would be poetic justice? Let them take their fancy vacation. Let them spend your joint savings thinking they're living large. Meanwhile what? Meanwhile, we accept that Forbes interview we've been putting off. Time it perfectly with their return. She grinned. Imagine Vienna's face when she sees your net worth splashed across national media. I should have felt bad about even considering it. But all I could think about was Curtis, withdrawing our savings without a word, Vienna's constant condescension, and years of being treated like I was somehow less than them. My phone rang again. Curtis. Eleanor, Mum wants to know if you prefer the ocean villa or the beach villa, he said, as if the previous conversation hadn't happened. "You know what? Surprise me," I replied coldly. "Since you're so good at making decisions without consulting me anyway." "Don't be like that," he pleaded. Mom says, Mom wants, Mom thinks," I interrupted. "When was the last time you asked what I want, Curtis?" Another silence. "I'll be home late," I said finally. "Don't wait up." After hanging up, I turned to Madeline. "Make the call to Forbes. It's time." She was already pulling out her laptop. "And the tech blog? Tell Emery to set it up. We'll do both." I felt a strange calm settle over me. If they want to play with money, let's play. "Eleanor," Madeline said seriously, pausing her typing, "once we do this, there's no going back. Your in-laws, Curtis. Everything will change." I thought about the countless family dinners where I sat quietly while Vienna belittled my choices. About Curtis's constant deferrals to his mother's wishes. About the $65,000 that disappeared from our account without so much as a discussion. "Good," I said firmly. "Everything needs to change." As Madeline made the calls, I opened my private banking app, the one containing my real wealth, and smiled at the balance. Let them enjoy their vacation. Let them feel powerful with their stolen $65,000. They had no idea what was coming. "Forbes is in," Madeline announced. "They want to run the story next month." "Perfect timing," I said, finishing my coffee. "That's right, when they'll be returning from paradise. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about choosing the perfect moment to show your cards. And my hand? It was about to blow their minds. "You're being awfully understanding about all this," Curtis said suspiciously as I helped him pack his suitcase. 2 weeks had passed since the bank account incident, and I'd maintained a carefully crafted facade of acceptance. "What choice do I have?" I smiled sweetly, folding one of his expensive shirts. "The money's already spent." He paused, holding a pair of swim trunks. "I know I should have discussed it with you first." "Water under the bridge," I said, waving dismissively. "Besides, you deserve this vacation. You work so hard." My phone buzzed on the dresser. Another message from Emery. "Photographer confirmed for Forbes shoot tomorrow. Studio booked." "Work?" Curtis asked, eyeing my phone. "Just school stuff," I lied smoothly. "End of semester grades." The doorbell rang, saving me from further questions. Vienna's voice echoed through the house moments later. "Curtis, Eleanor, are you ready? The car service is waiting." I watched Curtis's whole demeanor change, straightening his shoulders like a puppet on strings at his mother's voice. It would have been sad if it wasn't so infuriating. "Coming, Mom," he called out, then turned to me. "Are you sure you'll be okay here alone for 3 weeks?" "I'll manage," I said, thinking of my packed schedule of interviews, photo shoots, and final preparations for our company's biggest product launch to date. "Don't worry about me." Vienna appeared in our bedroom doorway, immaculate in her designer travel outfit. "Curtis, darling, we need to—" "Oh, Eleanor. Still in your teaching clothes, I see." I glanced down at my simple blouse and skirt. "Just came from school." She pursed her lips. "Well, Curtis, we really must go. The private car is charging by the hour." "Of course, Mom." He grabbed his suitcase and gave me a quick peck on the cheek. "I'll call when we land." "Have fun," I called after them, following them downstairs. "Spend lots of money." Vienna paused at the front door, turning to me with that condescending smile I'd grown to hate. "Now, Eleanor, don't be bitter. Perhaps next time you can save up enough from your teaching to join us." I bit back a laugh. The watch on her wrist probably cost less than what my company made in an hour. "You're right, Vienna. Maybe next time." After they left, I immediately called Madeline. "They're gone," I said as soon as she answered. "Operation Karma is officially a go. Perfect timing. I'm with the Forbes team now. They're loving the angle. Female entrepreneur revolutionizing education technology while maintaining her classroom roots. They want to make it a cover story." I sank into my favorite armchair, the one Vienna always criticized for being too modern for our decor. "A cover story? That wasn't the plan." Plans change, Madeline said excitedly, especially when they find out your net worth and the impact your platform is having globally. This is bigger than getting back at your in-laws. This could take the company to the next level. My phone beeped, another call coming in. It was Sylvia, Curtis's sister. Mad, I have to go. Curtis's sister is calling. The nice one? Yeah, the nice one. I switched calls. Sylvia? Eleanor? She sounded hesitant. I wanted to apologize for Mum's behavior, about the vacation and everything. You don't have to apologize for her. I know, but... She paused. Something feels off about all this. The way you just accepted everything. It's not like you. I smiled. Sylvia had always been more perceptive than the rest of her family. Maybe I'm just tired of fighting, I said carefully. Or maybe you're planning something, she replied. Look, I know my mother can be horrible. And Curtis... Well, Curtis needs to grow a spine. Whatever you're planning, I want you to know I'm on your side. For a moment, I considered telling her everything, but the fewer people who knew, the better. Thanks, Sylvia. That means a lot. After hanging up, I opened my laptop to review the Forbes interview questions. My phone buzzed again, a message from Curtis with a photo of them boarding their first-class flight. Missing you already, his text read. I closed the message without responding and opened my email instead. The subject line from our PR team read, Forbes cover story draft, the secret billionaire teacher. Perfect. Let them enjoy their expensive resort. Let them post their luxury vacation photos. Let them think they've won with their stolen $65,000. In 3 weeks, they'd return to find out what real wealth looks like. And more importantly, they'd learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet one in the room. I picked up my phone one last time to text Madeline. Tell Forbes I'm ready for my close-up. Smile. The photographer adjusted his camera while I sat at my classroom desk, surrounded by student artwork and motivation posters. Perfect. Now let's get some shots of you actually teaching. The Forbes photo shoot was in full swing, and my students were loving every minute of it. I told them it was for an educational magazine feature. Technically, not a lie. My phone buzzed with another Instagram notification. Curtis had posted another photo from their vacation, this time of Vienna lounging on a private beach, caption reading, Living our best life, has our blessed assured luxury travel. Eleanor? The photographer waved his hand. We lost you for a moment there. Sorry, I smiled, putting my phone away. Let's continue. After school, I met Madeline and Emery at our company headquarters, a sleek office building that none of my in-laws had ever seen. The Forbes journalist, Sarah, was waiting in the conference room. Mrs. Owens, she began. Eleanor, please. Eleanor, she corrected, your story is fascinating. Building a billion-dollar ed-tech company while continuing to teach part-time. What drove that decision? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Curtis. Excuse me, I said, stepping out. Hey, Eleanor, you'll never believe what Mom just did. Curtis sounded excited. She convinced the resort to upgrade us to their royal suite. It's costing an extra $20,000, but... $20,000? I interrupted. Curtis, that's... Don't worry about the money, he said dismissively. Mom says we deserve it. Oh, and we're extending the trip another week. The resort had a cancellation. I gripped my phone tighter. Another week? With whose money? Mum's covering it, he said quickly. Well, technically Dad is. Anyway, got to go. We're having dinner with some resort owners. Love you. He hung up before I could respond. I walked back into the conference room where Sarah was reviewing her notes. Everything okay? Madeline asked, noticing my expression. They're extending their vacation, I said flatly, and upgraded to the royal suite. Emery whistled. Perfect timing, boss. Our new platform launch next week will probably pay for their entire vacation in about 3 hours. Sarah's eyes widened. Mind if I include that detail in the article? Include everything, I said, sitting down. It's time for the whole story to come out. The interview lasted hours. We covered everything, from building the company from scratch to keeping it hidden from my in-laws. Sarah was particularly interested in the current situation. So your husband has no idea he's married to a billionaire? None, I confirmed. He's currently spending what he thinks is our life savings on a luxury vacation with his parents. While you're here revolutionizing education technology, Sarah shook her head. This is going to be one hell of a story. After the interview, Madeline insisted we celebrate at our favorite restaurant. The private dining room was already set up when we arrived. To Eleanor, Madeline raised her glass. The most patient woman I know, and the best revenge planner. It's not about revenge, I protested, but couldn't help smiling. It's about justice, Emery finished. Speaking of which, have you seen their latest Instagram posts? He pulled up Vienna's account on his tablet. There she was, posing in front of a sunset, caption reading, "Some people work for luxury, others were born for it." Born for it? Madeline scoffed. Wait until she sees your net worth on the cover of Forbes. My phone buzzed again. A text from Sylvia. Mum's going overboard with the spending. Curtis looks worried but won't say anything. Are you sure you're okay with all this? I typed back, trust me, everything's going exactly as planned. The magazine hit stands the day they return? Emery asked. I nodded. And the digital version goes live that morning. I've already arranged for a copy to be delivered to their house. You really have thought of everything, Sarah said, having joined us for dinner. Any regrets about going public like this? I thought about Curtis, so easily manipulated by his mother, about Vienna's constant belittling, about their current spending spree with money they thought would hurt me. No regrets, I said firmly. Sometimes people need a wake-up call. Well, Madeline raised her glass again. Here's to wake-up calls. And to watching karma do its thing. As we toasted, my phone lit up with another vacation photo. This time, it was Curtis, Vienna, and Judah in their new royal suite, champagne glasses in hand. Little did they know, their champagne toast was nothing compared to what we were celebrating. In 1 week, their borrowed luxury would meet my real wealth, and their perfect vacation would end with a reality check none of them saw coming. I smiled and turned my phone face down. Let them enjoy their last few days of blissful ignorance. The truth was worth waiting for. The sound of their car pulling into the driveway made me look up from my laptop, right on schedule. I'd been working from home today, waiting for this moment. The Forbes magazine lay on the doorstep, exactly where the delivery person had placed it an hour ago. Eleanor? Curtis called out as he opened the front door. I heard the rustling of him picking up the magazine, followed by a sharp intake of breath. Mom, his voice cracked, you need to see this. I stood up, smoothing down my dress, and walked to the foyer. Vienna was already snatching the magazine from Curtis's trembling hands. What is it? She stopped mid-sentence, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping the glossy cover where my photos smiled back at her. The headline read, The Billion-Dollar Teacher, How Eleanor Owens Built an EdTech Empire from Her Classroom. Welcome back, I said calmly. How was the royal suite? Vienna's face went from tan to pale in seconds. Judah, still struggling with the luggage at the door, hadn't noticed the tension yet. This is some kind of joke, Vienna managed to say, flipping through the pages frantically. Curtis, tell me this is a joke. Curtis just stood there, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Eleanor. What is this? That, I said, taking the magazine from Vienna's shaking hands, is the truth I've been keeping from you for 5 years. My company is worth just over $2 billion now. The vacation you just charged to our joint account. My platform makes that much in revenue every few hours. But you're a teacher, Vienna sputtered. I am a teacher, I confirmed. I'm also a CEO, an entrepreneur, and your son's wife, though that last part is currently under review. The sound of heels clicking on the porch announced Sylvia's arrival. Mum, you left your phone in the... She stopped, taking in the scene. Oh, they know now. You knew? Vienna whirled on her daughter. I figured it out, Sylvia shrugged, walking over to stand beside me. Unlike some people, I actually paid attention to Eleanor over the years. Curtis finally found his voice. "Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "Would it have stopped you from emptying our account without asking? Would it have made you stand up to your mother even once?" I didn't. Exactly. You didn't. I opened the magazine to the center spread, where photos of our company headquarters and success metrics were displayed. While you were spending what you thought was our life savings, I was finalizing a deal that will put our educational software in schools across 3 continents. Vienna grabbed Curtis's arm. "Darling, surely we can—" "No, Mom," Curtis cut her off, surprising everyone. "Not this time." "I've had my lawyer draw up some papers," I continued, walking to my desk and returning with a folder. "You have a choice to make, Curtis. Either we begin marriage counseling and you start making your own decisions, or you sign these divorce papers and walk away with exactly what you thought I was worth, nothing." "This is preposterous," Vienna exploded. "Curtis, you can't possibly—" "Mom!" Curtis's shout echoed through the foyer. "For once in my life, please be quiet." Judah, who had been silent until now, placed a hand on his wife's shoulder. "Vienna, I think we should go." "But now." His tone left no room for argument. As they left, Sylvia lingered. "For what it's worth," she said, "I'm proud of you, Eleanor." Someone needed to shake things up. After she left, Curtis and I stood in silence, the magazine between us on the coffee table. 4 years, he finally said. 4 years of watching Mum treat you like you were beneath us, and you were worth more than our entire family combined. "It was never about the money," I replied. "It was about respect, about partnership, about having a husband who would stand by me instead of standing behind his mother." He picked up the folder with the papers. "And these are my only options. Those are your options if you want to stay married to me," I said firmly. "I'm done being invisible, Curtis. I'm done being the quiet, accommodating wife. The question is, are you ready to be a real husband?" He opened the folder, staring at the papers inside. "The counseling. When would it start?" "That depends." I picked up my phone, showing him the screen with the counselor's contact information. "On whether you're ready to make your first independent decision as an adult." The ball was in his court now. After 4 years of hiding and 3 weeks of plotting, I'd finally played my hand. Now it was time to see if Curtis could play his. The first marriage counseling session was exactly as uncomfortable as I expected. Curtis sat rigid on one end of the couch while I occupied the other, the space between us speaking volumes. "So," Dr. Martinez began, "let's talk about what brought you here today." Before either of us could respond, my phone buzzed. Another hysterical message from Vienna. I silenced it without reading. "That's part of the problem right there," Curtis said, pointing at my phone. "Mum's called me 37 times since yesterday. She's convinced Eleanor planned this whole thing to humiliate our family." "Didn't you?" he added, turning to me. "No, Curtis. I planned it to make you see the truth." I faced Dr. Martinez. "My husband emptied our joint account to take his parents on a luxury vacation, without discussing it with me. Because I thought we needed the money," Curtis exploded. "How was I supposed to know my wife was secretly a billionaire?" "That's not the point," I shot back. "You shouldn't empty joint accounts whether your wife makes minimum wage or runs a Fortune 500 company." Dr. Martinez held up a hand. "Curtis, why did you feel you couldn't discuss this with Eleanor?" He deflated slightly. "Mum said—" "She said Eleanor wouldn't understand, that she'd try to stop us because she's always been financially conservative." "You mean poor?" I translated. "That's what Vienna always implied, right?" Before Curtis could respond, the door burst open. Vienna stood there, face flushed. "Mom?" Curtis jumped up. "How did you—" "Your secretary told me where to find you," she said, glaring at me. "I won't let you manipulate my son like this." Dr. Martinez stood. "Ma'am, this is a private session." "Private?" Vienna laughed shrilly. Like how she privately built an empire while pretending to be a humble teacher. Like how she humiliated us in front of everyone. I didn't pretend anything, I said calmly. I am a teacher. I'm also successful. The only humiliation came from your own assumptions. Mom, you need to leave, Curtis said quietly. Vienna froze. What? Leave. Now. His voice grew stronger. This is between me and my wife. Curtis, darling, you can't possibly... I said leave, he shouted, making everyone jump. For once in my life, let me handle something without you interfering. Vienna staggered back as if she'd been slapped. I only ever wanted what's best for you. No. Curtis shook his head. You wanted what's best for you. What looked best for you. What felt best for you. Eleanor was right. I need to make my own decisions. After Vienna left, Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. Well, that was unexpected, but possibly breakthrough material. Curtis, how do you feel? He sat back down, closer to me this time. Terrified, relieved, like I can finally breathe. Eleanor, Dr. Martinez turned to me. Your thoughts. I'm proud of him, I said honestly. That's the man I married. He just got lost somewhere along the way. My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Sylvia. Mum's having a meltdown. Dad's trying to calm her down. Also, I just read the full Forbes article. You're amazing. Can I see your phone? Curtis asked suddenly. I handed it to him, watching as he blocked his mother's number. Then he took out his own phone and did the same. I need space, he explained. From her, from all of it. I need to figure out who I am without her voice in my head. Dr. Martinez nodded approvingly. That's very insightful, Curtis. Eleanor, how do you feel about that? I think it's a start, I said, but we have a lot to work through. Trust to rebuild. I know, Curtis reached for my hand. I also know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. Why should I give you one? Because I love you, he said simply. Not your money, not your success, though I'm incredibly proud of you. I love the woman who grades papers until midnight, who lights up when her students understand a concept, who built something amazing while staying true to herself. I just forgot to show it. Dr. Martinez smiled. This is good progress, but Curtis is right. There's a lot of work ahead. Are you both committed to this? I looked at Curtis, really looked at him. The man who'd just stood up to his mother for the first time in his life. The man who was finally choosing me. Yes, I said, but on one condition. Anything. No more secrets from either of us. He squeezed my hand. Deal. As we left the session, my phone buzzed with another message, this time from Madeline. How'd it go? I looked at Curtis, who was already calling his father to explain his decision about Vienna. It's a start, I typed back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's watching someone finally stand up for themselves. And for the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely hopeful about our future. 3 weeks after our first counseling session, Curtis asked to see my office. The real one, not the classroom where I taught part-time. I agreed, but with one condition. We'd have dinner with his parents first. Are you sure about this? Curtis asked, as we pulled up to the restaurant. They're your parents, I said. We need to deal with this properly. Vienna and Judah were already seated when we arrived. Vienna's usual designer outfit looked slightly wrinkled, her makeup not quite as perfect as usual. Curtis, she started immediately. You haven't answered any of my calls. Mom, he interrupted, pulling out my chair. We're here to talk. Actually talk. Can you do that? She pressed her lips together but nodded. First, I said, opening my bag, I want to return this. I placed an envelope on the table. It's a check for $85,000, covering the vacation expenses and the royal suite upgrade. We don't need your charity, Vienna snapped. It's not charity, Curtis said firmly. It's returning money that was taken without permission. Accept it, Mom. Judah reached for the envelope. We'll take it. Thank you, Eleanor. Now, I continued, let's address the real issue. Vienna, you've never respected me or my choices. Because you deceived us, she burst out. All these years pretending to be— I never pretended anything, I cut in. You assumed, you judged. You decided I wasn't good enough for your son because I chose to teach. Did it ever occur to you that I might have other dimensions to my life? The waiter arrived with water, sensing the tension and quickly retreating. Mom, Curtis leaned forward. Eleanor built something incredible while staying true to her passion for teaching. Instead of being proud to have such a daughter-in-law, you're angry because she didn't fit into your narrow view of success. Vienna's hand trembled as she reached for her water. I only wanted— What you wanted, Judah spoke up, surprising everyone. Not what Curtis wanted, not what was best for his marriage. Judah, Vienna gasped. He's right, Curtis said. And I let you do it. I let you manipulate and control everything because it was easier than standing up to you. That stops now. I pulled out another envelope. These are boundaries we need you to respect if you want to be part of our lives going forward. They're non-negotiable. Vienna stared at the envelope like it might bite her. Boundaries? Yes, Curtis said, like not showing up uninvited to our counseling sessions, not making decisions about our money or our time without consulting us, not dismissing Eleanor's career choices. And if we don't agree, Vienna challenged. Then you don't see us, Curtis said simply. Your choice. The waiter returned nervously. Are you ready to order? Actually, Vienna stood up abruptly. I've lost my appetite. Mum, no, Curtis. I need time to process all this. Judah remained seated. I'll stay. We need to fix this, Vienna. All of us. She stared at him in betrayal before walking out. I'm sorry, Judah said after she left. She's not handling the loss of control well. Is she ever? Curtis muttered. We ordered dinner, and the conversation gradually became less tense. Judah asked genuine questions about my company, expressing real interest in how it worked. You know, he said near the end of dinner, I always wondered why such a bright young woman would just teach, as Vienna put it. Now I see you weren't just teaching, you were revolutionizing how teaching works. That's what I love about her, Curtis said, squeezing my hand. She never does anything halfway. After dinner, we drove to my office building. Curtis whistled as we entered the sleek lobby with its modern design and wall of awards. This is incredible, he said as I gave him the tour. All those late nights you said you were grading papers. Some of them I was, I smiled. Others I was here, building this. We ended up in my office, overlooking the city lights. I have something for you, I said, pulling out one final envelope. More boundaries? He asked. No, divorce papers. His face fell. But I thought, we were working things out. We are, I said, but I need you to understand something. These papers represent a choice. Your choice. Every day you can choose to be the man you've been becoming these past weeks. Strong, independent, supportive. Or you can choose to sign these and go back to being your mother's son. Curtis took the envelope but didn't open it. Instead, he tore it in half. I choose you, he said. Every day I choose you. I smiled, feeling tears prick my eyes. Good answer. Now, he grinned, want to show me how this education empire of yours actually works? For the first time in our marriage, I felt like I could truly share all of myself with my husband, and it felt absolutely right. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard as I wrapped up my outdoor class session. My students were presenting their projects when I noticed Curtis walking across the school grounds, carrying 2 coffee cups. Mrs. O, one of my students called out, Is that your husband? The one from the magazine? I smiled, watching him approach. Yes, that's him. The one who didn't know you were super rich. Amanda, her friend elbowed her. Curtis reached us, handing me my coffee with a grin. The very same. Though in my defense, she's very good at keeping secrets. Not anymore, I said, taking a sip. Class dismissed. Remember, presentations continue tomorrow. As the students dispersed, Curtis sat beside me on the bench. Ready for dinner tonight? Are you? I asked. It would be our first dinner with his parents since Vienna had walked out of the restaurant 2 months ago. Mum's been doing better in therapy, he said. Dad says she's actually listening now. My phone buzzed, Madeline calling. Hey Mad, you're on speaker. The acquisition offer just came in, she said excitedly. They're offering 3 times what we expected. Curtis squeezed my hand. Take it. You've worked too hard not to see this through. Look who's becoming a business expert, I teased. Well, I did marry one, he laughed, even if it took me 4 years to figure it out. Later that evening, we arrived at Sylvia's house for dinner. She'd offered to host on neutral ground, aware of how delicate things still were. Vienna opened the door, looking different, softer somehow. Eleanor, Curtis, please come in. The dining room was set beautifully, and Judah was already opening wine. Sylvia emerged from the kitchen with appetizers. Before we start, Vienna said, her voice unusually hesitant, I have something for you, Eleanor. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and teaching supplies receipts. I donated to your old school district, she explained. Fully funded their teaching supplies for the year. I thought it might be a way to show I understand now. About the importance of education. About why you teach. Mom, Curtis breathed. Thank you. There's more, Judah added. Tell them, Vienna. Vienna twisted her napkin. I've been volunteering at the literacy center downtown, teaching adults to read. It's humbling and rewarding. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's wonderful, Vienna. I was wrong, she said quietly. About so many things. About you. About what success looks like. About what strength looks like. Sylvia raised her glass. To new beginnings? Actually, Curtis stood up. Before we toast, I have news too. He pulled out his phone, showing an email. I quit the firm today. What? I stared at him. I'm starting my own practice. Smaller, focused on helping educational startups with legal work. He smiled at me. Someone inspired me to follow my own path. Curtis, Vienna started, then stopped herself. She took a deep breath. That's wonderful, darling. Tell us more about your plans. As Curtis outlined his vision, I watched Vienna carefully controlling her natural instinct to take over. She was trying, really trying. Eleanor? Sylvia nudged me. You're being quiet. Just taking it all in, I said. A year ago, I was hiding my success to keep the peace. Now you're changing education globally, Judah raised his glass. While teaching my wife about humility and my son about courage, I'd say that's worth celebrating. To Eleanor, Curtis said, standing, who taught me that true strength isn't in what you hide, but in what you choose to reveal? To family, Vienna added softly, and learning to do better. My phone buzzed one final time, an email confirming the acquisition deal. I silenced it without checking. Some things could wait. Right now, watching Curtis beam with pride about his new venture, seeing Vienna genuinely try to change, feeling Sylvia's supportive presence, this was enough. I'd started this journey seeking revenge, but I'd found something better. Growth. Not just my own, but in everyone around me. Curtis had found his voice, Vienna her humility, and I'd found the freedom to be fully myself. To truth, I raised my glass, and to second chances. As we clinked glasses, I caught Curtis's eye and saw in it everything I needed to know. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's giving people the chance to become who they should have been all along. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's letting go of the need for revenge altogether.